Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Neil Harden. I am chairing today's panel. With me via Zoom are Gail Anderson and Michelle Duncan. The assessor today is Matthew Harling, and the administrative personnel is Nicole Carnegie. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rule in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matter for which revisions is requested have been described in each application, and we'll limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by council, is independent of it in the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order to be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions the applicant may have, then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 1 through 10 on our docket today. Ms. Carnegie, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Thank you. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Matthew Harley.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, please state your first name, your full name.
Okay, both. Rocky Neufeld.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Mercury, please state your full name.
James Mercury.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right. We have an ambitious agenda this morning, so I would appreciate concise presentations. So we will start with the first property, which is 237 Lawson Crescent. So Mr. Assessor, you can begin.
Mr. Chairman, sorry to interrupt. Mr. Mercury is here for 2 properties only. I'm wondering if we could work with his schedule. There's 2 penalty requests, Gateway and 640 King Edward.
Okay, certainly we can do that. So let's move then to property number 4, which is 640 King Edward. Let me just pull up those files. That's item 4. Okay. Mr. Harling on 640 King Edward.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the file number is 22-3090. The roll number is 070018700000. The address is 640 King Edward Street, and the owner is Computer Plus Limited. So as Mr. Neufeld had mentioned, there is an issue of non-compliance with this property. So I will start with that first here. So if you turn to page 13 of my brief, this is the certified mailer that we had sent out. The initial mailer we always send out 2 mailers. So the first mailer is sent out on April 15th, 2021. And then if we do not receive a response, we send it certified mailer, which is sent on June 9th. So this is the blank mailer. It's on page 13, 14, 15, and 16. And then on page 17, this is the certified letter or mail we received for, or sorry, the signature we received that the mailer was signed for, and then the individual that signed for it, and the mailing address that we send the tax bill as well as the income expense mailer is the same address at 640 or 620 King Edward Street. So, so that's yes, that would be the my presentation for the non-compliance issue.
Okay, Mr. Neufeld, questions on the non-compliance?
So we'll have just a couple of questions, and I know Mr. Neufeld may also have some questions and some commentary in response. First question is, the owner here is Computers Plus?
Correct.
Okay, and there are multiple locations in the city, and a number of them have already come before the border revision, is that correct?
There have been some properties, yes, yes, correct.
Okay. Have you reviewed those files as well, and the non-compliance request specifically?
I haven't reviewed them specifically. No.
Okay, so would you be aware that the same request for non-compliance was made in connection with the other Computers Plus properties and essentially based on the same evidence?
It would be similar, yes. I won't dispute that, yes.
Okay, and we have, and the board should have copies of the rebuttal material that was submitted
Yes, we do.
by so just with reference to that, and Mr. Harling, do you have that as well?
I do have that, yes.
Okay, and so there's one document there called PDF called Penalty Case 4, I think it is.
Yes, I see that.
And the first several board orders are Computers Plus. Do you see that?
I do, yes.
Okay, and with addresses at 550 Roseberry, 1561 Aaron, as well as 650 King Edward.
I see. Are those further at the bottom, I guess? Because I'm looking
right towards the top. So if you look at page 1.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I see. Yes. I
first,
see. Yeah.
And if you go down there, I believe 4 different properties. I won't go through them all.
Sure.
And a little different assessor handling them. And so I guess the question was, and I know Mr. Neufeld and myself were involved in all of these properties or these appeals. Essentially, the same mailer was provided and to an individual by the name of Daniel Stefanovsky.
Correct.
Were you aware of whether these businesses were even open at the time these mailers were sent out?
I was not. I'm not fully aware if they were open at the time. No.
All right. And okay. I think those are the only questions that I have. I think we'll have some comments just in response, but following any questions the board may have.
Okay, Gail, any questions of the assessor?
Just in regards to the signatory page there, are you aware who the signatory is that is signed for this?
Well, I did, like I said, actually at the back of page 18 of my brief, I did some research, and this individual, this Mr. Daniel Stefanovsky, he is an employee at CDC Computers. So, and I checked on their website, and he is listed on there. So, so that's the only information I really have. So, and that's all I know at this time. So,
okay, and the property listed, like the property under review is 640 King Edward. Correct. And you indicate the tax bills and these mailers are mailed to 620 King Edward. That's the address on file. And has there ever been are you aware that there's been a application to change the address?
Like I said, in our system, we send the mailing address, and we have one mailing address on file. We don't have multiple mailing addresses for different for tax bills or income expense mailers and such. So I don't have anything on record myself indicating anything different, but that's from what I could find. So I mean, unless there's something different.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Okay, Michelle, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, so, sorry, go
um,
ahead.
just a question, the signing seems to be AJ for something else. Is that how you make it out?
Yeah, like I won't deny that. Yeah, like looking at the signature, I mean, I can't speak to the signature itself, how it's signed like that. So this is just what we received from Canada Post, so that's all I can really unfortunately go by. So
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Mercury, you can begin then.
All right, so just and I know Mr. Newfield will have some comments as well, as he's familiar with this particular property, but just by way of background, this is essentially the same request that's been made on the same evidence for several other Computers Plus locations in the city. It appears that they're relying on the same mailer and Canada Post tracking information, and for a number of reasons, I would suggest the board has denied the deferral request on all of those prior occasions, and we submit should also be denied in this case. Our understanding, Mr. Newfield can confirm that the business was closed at this time. Daniel Stefanovsky is not, to our knowledge, someone who is an agent of the owner. He may or may not be employed there. The signature page itself is lacking. There is no, as the assessor acknowledged, there's no actual signature from Mr. Stefanovsky. We had provided as well in our rebuttal material, and I don't want to, in light of the Mr. Chairman's comments, I don't intend to go through them in detail, but essentially the thrust of those cases is that there must be proof that the mailer made its way to the owner, and that if someone actually received the document at site, they had authority to receive it and brought it to the attention of the owner. This type of evidence is not generally accepted as proof of service. And so with that, I want to turn it over to Mr. Neufeld to confirm. I think just he has some knowledge with respect to this business and what the nature of its operations at the time that these mailers would have been sent.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, no, I was actually went to the site during this closure time, and they were closed. Their doors were locked. They were not open to the public. And you know, the mailers. I questioned the owners, Tony and Debbie Batista, about whether they had received it, and they had no record. And I think we've been through down this path a lot of times, and I at the risk of more repetition, there's been an issue with delivery of the mailers during COVID. We know the assessors have admitted on numerous occasions they know they're not getting signatures, and it's just a feature of what's happening in the world. Another thing we've noted was that when these signature pages come in, there have been some very strange signatures attached to them, and a lot of them. And I was just trying to put these together this morning. I have about 20 different ones and different owners, different locations. And the initials that they're signed with seem to be very, very similar. So we're wondering if it's just a sign off at Canada Post. Don't know. I did just send in Mr. Stefanovsky's actual signature, and you can see that it bears no resemblance whatsoever to what's on the page. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Which can you draw our attention to the signature?
It was sent in a different, it was sent about 2 minutes ago, and it's called Daniel Sig.
All
I
right.
transferred it into your SharePoint about 2 or 3 minutes ago, so you may need to refresh.
All right. Let me just look on down.
I have it.
Yeah, I have it too. All right. I will caution that the previous board orders are not that much guidance to us. We need the evidence that's being presented. So please address that, the full evidence in this present case.
So I can just comment. I know I was involved in at least 2 of those cases. I know Mr. Neufeld was obviously involved in all of them, but the evidence on behalf of the applicant was, or sorry, the taxpayer, Mr. Neufeld can correct me if I'm mistaken, was exactly the same. And the submission was exactly the same, and the same position was put forward by the assessor. And I think Mr. Neufeld can confirm that as well.
Correct.
All right, thank you for that then. Mr. Harlan, you have questions?
No, I think I'm good. I think, yeah, no, I think I'm good with questions. Thank you.
Okay, Gail, do you have any questions?
Just to confirm, the signature that you provided for Daniel, it's dated 2021.
Yeah, I don't know. I contacted the owner, Debbie Batista, and I said, send me a copy of his signature, anything you've got it on. So she found something on a document and clipped it off. I think it had something to do with pay or something. It was just intended to be a sample of the signature that she had on file.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
All right, Michelle, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, I guess then the board needs to deliberate on this, so we will recess for the board to make a decision on this. All right, welcome back. We'll now come back into session. The board deliberated and debated extensively on this issue. We're concerned that there's a history of non-cooperation with this property and that they didn't return their 2019 mailers either. However, I guess the concluding factor for us was that the initials on the mailer don't appear to match the signature for that employee. It's not clear where that employee's name would have come from with Canada Post, because the letter certainly wasn't addressed to that individual. But there's enough doubt that we're declining to issue the penalty on this one, and we'll decline the non-co-op. So, Mr. Harlan, you can proceed.
Thanks, Chairman. The file number is 22-3090. The roll number is 070018700000. The address is 640 King Edward Street, and the owner is Computer Plus Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $1,013,000. If you go to page 1 of my brief, you'll see the property description information. This is a 1-story building. The actual and effective year built is 1956. The wall heights are 16 feet. The land area is 20,440 square feet with a plan area of 12,342, which gives us a land to plan area of 2.30. And we have a leasable area of 12,325 square feet. If we go to page 2 of my brief, we've already spoken about the income information. Last time this property sold was in 2003, so no recent sales, and there are no subject properties in place. Page 3 of my brief is just a photo of the subject property. This is where it's located on 640 King Edward Street. Continue on page 4. This just shows another map at the top, just a zoomed in photo where it's located on King Edward. And at the bottom of page 4, this is just a photo of the side of the building on facing King Edward Street. This continues on page 5, just showing a front view of the subject property. We continue to page 6. This is just an overview head of the subject in relation to where it's situated. Page 7 just shows further photos, just of different angles of the subject. And then lastly, just on page 8, just another photo again of the subject property. Page 9 of my brief is my income workup. So again, we're using a leasable area of 12,325 square feet. We are applying a model rate of $5.95 a square foot, which gives us a potential rent of $73,334. We're applying 7% for vacancy loss, which gives us an effective gross income of $68,201. We're allowing 3% for non-recoverable expenses and $3.85 a square foot of shortfall, which then gives us an overall net operating income of $62,833. And lastly, we're applying an overall capitalization model cap rate of 6.20%, which gives us an estimated value of $1,013,000. We go to page 10 of my brief. These are my rent comparables. So the rent comparables, they range in lease start dates from August 2015 to December 2020. The terms range from 3 to 5 years. Leasable areas range from 9,874 square feet to 15,019 square feet. The wall heights range from 14 feet to 18 feet. Effective year bills range from 1952 to 1965. And the net rents range from $5.75 a square foot to $8.78 a square foot. And just looking at the locations, some of these, they would be close to the subjects, Sargent, St. James, Wellington. So they're all, close to the same area. St. Matthews would be a bit further away, but and Aaron Street. So I believe the comparables are supported by our model rent supported by the comparables. If we go to page 11 of my brief, this is just the capitalization rate information. We're again applying a cap rate of 6.20%. So this does fall within our 20th to 80th percentile for the cap rates we applied for properties within the city of Winnipeg. And in addition, I believe it is supported by the outside sources as well, looking at that. Page 12 of my brief is just the municipal assessment acting group information. And page 13, again, through 18 is just the income expense information, which we've already spoken to. And that concludes my presentation. As the board confirmed the value, and I am open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Sorry about that. Okay, yeah, I do have a few questions. Firstly, the year built 1956. Oh wait, back that up a second. Everything page, I guess, valuation page 9. Was this all model driven?
That is correct. It's all model.
So we have a 1956 construction with a cap rate of 6.2%. Does that fit into the model with the age of the property and the ceiling height being so low?
Yeah, it would be. It's not just one factor. It'd be a bunch of factors. The age, size, location, wall height. So all those factors would play into the cap rate. Yes. So.
Okay, and you listed a sale on page 2. Were you aware that was a multi-role sale?
Yeah, yes, I was. I apologize. Yes, that is correct. It was a multi-role sale.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I already sent in my rebuttal here.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. I wrote it down. I just forgot to mention that, but you are correct. It was multi-role. I believe it included.
Okay, so no, the board will not be relying on it. Then is that fair to say? It should not.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, understandable. Yeah.
Okay. Now onto your rents. Now you don't have the actual rent for the subject, and of course obviously that's because you're saying you never got a mailer. But your comparable rents, page 10, 1500 Notre Dame. Who's the tenant here?
I don't have that information on me. I apologize. So.
Well, are you aware that building's rent is a gross rent and includes things such as it's a multi-use building with a retail office and manufacturing in it. That is not the manufacturer, and the rents for the other portions include things such as janitorial and complete gross. I'm very familiar with the building, and I'm just wondering if you were aware of that.
I was not aware of that, but I don't dispute. Yeah, this would be a superior comparable, and it's a longer term lease too. So, but yeah, no, I don't. I wasn't aware of that, but yes, I don't dispute that.
Okay, and 1608 and 1610 St. James are clients of mine, and again, same question. I know that these are semi-gross leases, and I'm wondering if you were aware of that.
That one I was not aware of, and I just realized actually the 1610 is actually a bit of an older lease too. So yeah, so that's another thing too. Yeah. So, but no, I would.
All right, those are my questions. Yeah, no, one last one. Do you know what this was originally built for?
Unfortunately, no, I don't actually. I tried to do some looking back and I couldn't find as much information as I hoped, unfortunately. So didn't have enough time to do some lot more background. So no, I'm not aware of that. So
Okay, but from the picture, you can see that it's all at dock height, right?
correct. Sorry.
It's
So
at the building's at dock height.
oh yes, correct. Yes.
So your 16 feet wall height, which is the exterior, may require an adjustment, not just for the ceiling truss width, but also for the dock height level. I mean, you haven't been inside this to determine what the actual clear height is inside, have you?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't inspected. So no, you're right. Yeah. So yes.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, Michelle, any questions?
Did we not say this was Computer Plus, the business?
No, that's just the owner. So
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, because I'm seeing in the pictures, there's so Fitness Experience is one tenant. Is that the only tenant along with the Computer Plus owner occupied?
yeah, that one building is on its own, so it's separate from the one below it at 620. But yes, it's just the one tenant we have in the space as the Fitness Experience. Yes. So
And maybe I missed it when you were talking. Do you have the lease term there, or maybe the applicant side can tell us that?
no, like as I said, since we didn't have the mailer, we don't have info lease information. So
Okay. Okay, that's it for my questions. Thank you.
All right, Gail, any questions?
Just in regards to your lease comparables, so which one is the the best comparable?
I wouldn't really say specifically one, but I guess the most similar types of buildings, probably the ones would be, Aaron Street, St. Matthews would be probably the closest to the subject. I mean, in terms of like maybe comparable, but as Mr. Neufeld mentioned, a few of them, like such, for example, like Notre Dame and St. James and those ones, those are gross rents. So, and they're slightly older, the leases, like for example, St. James is an older lease too. So yeah, I guess I would say St. Matthews and Aaron Street would be my closest. So.
Okay. And in regards to the cap rate, what band is warehouse in the cap rate study that you provided?
We don't really, I guess there's really no range that we do for that. It's just like I said, it's just based on all the factors of the building, like the age, size, wall height, location, land to plan area. So those are all the factors that take into play of the actual cap. So, there's really no specific range we would apply for like a particular warehouse. There's no like set number we would apply. I guess it just varies by property, but all those factors really. So.
Okay, so what whereabouts would you see this on a scale of what you've seen for warehouses?
I mean, we've seen cap rates compress, so that's why I'm thinking. That's why I'm saying like our, and our cap rate just like, for example, as I stated, our 20th to 80th percentile. So the cap rates fall within that range of what we've applied or we've seen for properties, industrial properties. So that's why we're kind of putting in the middle, if you will, or somewhere, I guess you could say. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Those are all my questions.
Okay, and I have no questions, so you can begin, Mr. Neufeld.
Thank you. So the building was, as I was mentioning, was purchased with two adjoining properties, which are 620 and 630 King Edward. So that the owner bought all of them at the same time, same vendor. And the Computers Plus is actually located at 620 King Edward. Not, and they're just the owner of this building. It is a completely tenanted building, single tenant Fitness Experience. I've been in there lots of times, and you know what? I've never really tried to figure out the ceiling height, but it is on dock level. The outside height is 16 feet, and there are trusses. I'm guessing it's somewhere around 10 to 11 feet clear span inside. Just going from memory, so it's not a very good high ceiling building. The owners had a number of tenants in his 630 and 640 King Edward, and this is been tested by the market. I should guess the rent. It is actually at Okay, well, we had statements. There we go. On my page 3, we had the older statement, 2019 statement, fitness experience, and we did our calculations from this. Our estimate of actual income is 534 square foot. And I know this doesn't differ greatly from the assessor. When you come down and go through all of our numbers and arrive at net operating income, you'll see that our calculation versus the assessors is approximately $10,000 apart. And it's in all sorts of small areas, like we have the actual rent, which is, as I said, market tested. Our vacancy is virtually the same. We have allowed non-recoverables, of which there's a very, very large amount. At one point, this building had a connected furnace system with the neighboring properties, which is one of the reasons that they were sold together. That's since been severed. And the shortfall, but there are large non-recoverables, as you can see from the statement. The shortfall we've calculated in actual, and why the city's shortfall is wrong is they're treating this as an industrial property. It's not. It's a retail warehouse property, and the actual tax load is higher than, the actual tax load is approximately $1.77 a square foot, and we know what the utility costs are. So we are higher there overall. It's been misclassed, and as a result, one of the thoughts we had was to say, well, let's just call it retail and put in the retail parameters. I don't like parameters. I like actuals, and this is the way we do it. As far as the cap rate is concerned, the downside on it, of course, is that it's an old building with a low ceiling height. Upside is, and it's an old building, and the upside is it's a fairly good location, but that will only see market if it gets demolished after you remove 3 feet of concrete pad from the site. Expensive demolition. I know that the owner's thoughts down the road would be, when the market demands, perhaps bundle all these together and someone's going to come in and pay him for his land value. It hasn't happened in 19 years, 20 years now. So I think he's a bit of a dreamer. So we think that the cap rate of 7.25 is far more reasonable. And as this relates to the Collier's cap rate study, which is on page 25, it doesn't. We don't track these. And I'm going to tell you some interesting news, and you won't have to hear it again. This cap rate study in the next month will be written by me. And that's not because I have any particular focus or any particular goal in mind, but we're having a hard time getting the message across to people that these are the best rates. And an inferior retail building that's past its prime and no longer fulfilling its highest and best use does not get a competitive cap rate. Its cap rate will actually be defined by its land value down the road after demolition. And that's the truth with all of with buildings like this. So it's outside our range, whether it be industrial, whether it be retail. What we've tried to do is use those ranges for base rates and provided adjustments on our page 2 to show you the difference between this and a better property. That's my presentation. Thanks.
All right. Questions, Mr. Harling?
I think my questions were answered. Actually, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Gail, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Michelle, any questions?
Just what is the lease on this current occupant?
On our page 3, the term started in 2012. There was a renewal in 2017. It's not written there, but I know there was. And at the time, the term was from 17 to 22. Monthly rent is listed along with recoveries. So the income including recoveries is 124,000 and the expenses are 74,000. This being and their NOI is of course 50,000, which we've adjusted upwards. We've taken out the property management, adjusted it upwards, and then put that property management as a non-recoverable expense. Only because I'm very familiar with the way this is operated, and the 15,622 is not a professional a property management number. So we've been very transparent how we calculated this. So that all the properties owned by this particular company are written as net, but they tend to be more closely described, I believe, as gross. They have recoveries. They don't match the actuals, and you'll notice, for example, property taxes 21,200, recoveries 20,029. So they're not matching up. It's very.
Sorry, Rocky. Sorry, I just wanted to know about the lease. I didn't.
Yeah,
Are you?
we worked it out to 534.
Right, and it's goes till 2022. Okay, thank you.
Right. Sorry. I'll ramble if you let me. I'm glad you stopped.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay, and I have no questions. So thank you very much for that. We will move on to the second property, 901 Gateway, property item number 6. Let me just open the files again. Okay, so Mr. Harling, on 901 Gateway, you can begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 22-3791. The roll number is 040072565520. The address is 901 Gateway Road, and the owner is 6825347 Manitoba 11. So as Mr. Neufeld mentioned, this one is another property we have an appliance issue with. So I'll just quickly go into that. So we go to page 12 of my brief. Again, this is just the blank certified mailer we had sent out. So this is page 12, 13, and 14. Now the page 15 of my brief is just the, I guess, the delivery notice or the information we sent that the Canada Post provided us. So the mailing address is going to a property owner in Steinbach. So it's not within the city of Winnipeg, but it's in Steinbach. So it did say it was delivered to recipient's door. However, if we go to page 16 of my brief, we do not have a signature though on file. So basically we just have just a notice saying that it was delivered, but we do not have the signature on page 16. So that really concludes my presentation for the compliance.
Okay, questions, Mr. Mercury or Mr.
Yes,
Neufeld?
just briefly. So in light of the fact that there's no signature, you're not able to verify whether the owner actually received it or someone may have picked it up with authority to receive it?
No, as I said, no, we don't. I can just only go by the information we have here after saying it was delivered, but you're right, we don't know who received it or if anyone yet. So
those are my only questions.
Okay.
I had a question.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I'm just looking at page 15 and it says delivered to recipient's front door. I lived in Steinbach for 5 years. We never had mail service to the door. It was at a post office box. Are you aware that they only have a post office drop off? It's the corner of Reimer and Main.
I can only go by this what's on here, so I can't. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah.
No, I was just looked at that and I was wondering. By the way, my address was box 539.
Okay.
All right. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay, Gail, questions on the non-co-op?
I have no questions. Thank you.
And Michelle, any questions on the non-co-op?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mercury, on the non-co-op, then you can begin.
Yes, very briefly, I think we covered a lot of this ground in the last matter. In this case, the evidence is far more clear. There is not proof of delivery or receipt, I should say, by the owner. We have no signature. The letter is not addressed to anyone's attention in particular. The only thing we have is a note from Canada Post indicating it was left at a front door. That certainly does not satisfy the requirements of the Municipal Assessment Act. And don't know that I need to go into the board orders that have previously been provided, but certainly in light of the last, just the matter we dealt with this morning, in which we couldn't make out the signature. Certainly here we have no signature at all. The evidence falls well short of establishing non-compliance. So that would be my submission. Thank you.
Okay, Gail, any questions on this?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Michelle?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, I guess the one question I would have then, would a person be able to then avoid their responsibility simply by not signing for a registered letter?
Well, I can't speak to this. Anything's possible, I suppose, Mr. Chairman. I don't know that, but the Act is very clear that there must be proof of receipt. But I would suggest in this particular case, there's no evidence that anybody is attempting to avoid service. The way the legislature has dealt with that more recently is there actually has been amendments to the Municipal Assessment Act, which take effect after this time period. But going forward, there is actually a deemed receipt provision. Once the assessor proves that they've mailed it, it's deemed receipt after 3 days. So going forward, I expect this will be much more of a streamlined process. That's how the legislature has chosen to deal with it. But in this case, I'd suggest that there isn't any evidence of someone knowingly avoiding service. So I'm not sure what more I can say on that.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I just would like to address that as well. I mean, Corey Epp is the person we deal with, and I've spoken to him about it. And this is a large company, the largest manufactured concrete company in Manitoba and likely Western Canada. There's no issues with their credibility. They didn't receive it, and as I mentioned earlier, I know that Steinbach does not have door-to-door delivery, never has, and with the way Canada Post is funding it, it never will. This should have been labeled delivered to recipient's mailbox, notice letter, and then picked up at counter. That's how it should have read. So, and it does not say that. So I don't. I think that this is a complete non-delivery. Just my opinion, and dealing with this company.
Okay. Thank you for that. I guess we will have a brief recess while the board considers this. So thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much. Again, the board has deliberated, and given that receipt cannot be demonstrated on this instance, then we're going to deny the non-co-op on this. So, Mr. Harling, you can begin on value.
Thanks, Chairman. Again, the file number is 223971. The roll number is 040072565520. The address is 901 Gate Road, and the owner is number company 6825347 Manitoba Limited.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't know that Mr. Neufeld is back and is in front of his monitor.
Oh,
so
yeah, he's not there. You're right. Yeah.
Just there he is. So.
Yeah.
I'm going to depart because I think my role at this stage is completed. So Mr. Neufeld will carry on from here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mercury.
Did I miss anything?
Oh, you missed all the excitement.
Okay, so should I just continue, start over again there, Mr. Chairman, or?
Yes, go ahead,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so again, file number is 22-3791. The roll number is 040072565620. The address is 901 Gateway Road, and the owner is Number Company 6825347 Manitoba Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on the record date of April 1st, 2021 is $1,038,000. Looking under the property description information, this is a one-story building. The actual and effective year built from 2016. The wall heights are 22 feet. The land area is 26,789 square feet with a plan area of 33,848, which gives us a land to plan area of 6.96. And the leasable area is 3,848 square feet as well. So going to page 2 of my brief, the request for information we already spoken to, obviously. The most recent sale was in 2015 for $163,000. This wasn't an associated sale, so we're not putting any weight on that, and it's older sales, slightly older. And there are no property leases in place. Go to page 3 of my brief, you'll see some photos of the subject. So at the top of my brief, you'll see the photo where the property is in relation to on Gateway Road and what's in the close to the subject. Bottom of page 3, just zoom in a bit more. This just shows the photo of the subject property again, where it's situated on Gateway Road. If we go to page 4 of my brief, this is the street view of the photo of the subject. So this is the front of the building, top, and at the bottom is just kind of an angle view to just kind of show a bit more of the building. This continues on page 5 at the top, just the other opposite side of the building, on the south side, I believe. Bottom of page 5, this is just a parcel view of the subject and where the property is in relation to the property and just the parcel outline. And just further pages on pages 6 and 7, just again showing different photos of the subject from just different angles, just to show the front of the building and the rear of the building. Page 7. Okay, page 8 of my brief now. This is the income workup. So again, this is a 3,848 square foot leasable building. We are applying a model rent of $13.02 a square foot, which gives us a potential rent of $50,101. We're applying 3% per vacancy, which then gives us an effective gross income of $48,590. You're allowing 3% for non-recoverable expenses and $3.85 a square foot per shortfall, which then gives us an overall net operating income of $46,696. And lastly, we are applying an overall model capitalization rate of 4.50%, which then gives us an estimated value of $1,038,000. So turn to page 9 of my brief. These are my rent comparables. So the rent comparables range in the lease start date of July 2016 to March 1st, 2020. The lease terms are all 5-year leases, or 5 to 6 year leases, roughly. Leasable areas range from 3,000 to 4,349 square feet. The wall heights range from 19 feet to 27 feet. The effective year belts range from 1990 to 2011. And the net rents in place range from $13 a square foot to $15 a square foot. So I believe that this brackets our model rent I have stated in our income workup. Go to page 10 of my brief, the capitalization rate. So this cap rate is obviously 4.50%, so it definitely does fall outside the 20th to 80th percentile we see for cap rates. So this would fall more in the 0 to 20th, I guess, if you will. And the reason for the low cap rate would be based on the size of the building. Again, it's a very small 4,000 square foot building roughly. It was built in 2016, so it's basically a brand new building. Good wall heights, 22 feet. It's got a good land to plan ratio of 6.96. So these would be the main factors, drive factors for the lower capitalization rate. So if we go to page 11 of my brief, it's just a Municipal Assessment Act user information. And then pages 12, again through 16 are just the mailer information, which we've already spoken to. So there's nothing else to go in there. And that concludes my presentation. I ask the board to confirm the value, and I am open for questions. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Yes. This valuation, and I'm referring to page 8, was this all done by the model?
This is all model derived, correct?
Okay, and the selection of comparable rents on page 9, who selected these?
These comps were selected by myself.
Okay, and all of these comps are located in southwest Winnipeg. Did you have any in the northeast quadrant?
No, there's not a lot of comparables in there in that area, so that's why I did have to extend my search for comparables. So.
Would you not concede that southwest Winnipeg is a far superior location than northeast Winnipeg as far as rental demand?
There's some variations in rents, so yeah, I won't dispute there's some differences. I wouldn't say everything is superior, but yeah, there is some properties that would be superior for sure. Yeah, so.
And these rents that you've selected here, you're aware that most all of these are have been built out to an office use. Commerce, Fairfield.
There is some well, the Squarefield ones, there are some office space in some of them, yes. There's a combination of some office and warehouse, yeah.
Well, 5 Squarefield, 25 Squarefield, any industrial at all in those buildings?
In this one, I'm not familiar with this one. I'm pretty sure 62 has some office warehouse from what I'm familiar with.
That's the offices of a home builder, correct?
For which one are we talking about?
25 Squarefield.
That one I'm not feeling. No, I don't know if the yeah, I guess I have to take your word for it because I'm not familiar with the
And 5 Squarefield was a Grand and Toy retail operation that's been now in use as office. As a matter of fact, you can go there to vote. Are you aware of that?
Say that again, sorry.
That it's usually a polling station.
I'm not aware of that now. So
okay. And 980 Lorimer. Is this in the A&S Homes office complex?
That's not the tenant, I believe that's in there, but I know this is a I know this area very well. Yes, I won't dispute this is more of a like a what do you call it, a condo industrial, I guess, if you will.
Right. As a matter of fact, real estate office was in there, Cushman and Wakefield for a while.
I believe at one point they were, yes, correct.
Okay. And you know, I'm very familiar with all these locations, and I'm just wondering if these are really appropriate.
Well, again, the reason I was selecting these comps is they're very similar in size, age, wall height. As I stated, like, I mean, in that area, there's not a lot of comparables that are that similar to that building, so that's why I kind of expanded my search as I stated. So.
Okay, and I'm looking at your pictures on page 5, and the front does not look like a warehouse, does it?
No, the front part would be not like classified more as a traditional, yeah, as a warehouse, if you will, yes. So.
And the overhead shot, I guess you kind of clipped it off here. I'm looking on page 5 and 6 and 7. I guess the best picture would be the bottom of page 7. You're aware that this is next door to 909 Gateway, which is a actual concrete manufacturing plant owned by the same company. Okay.
Yeah, I was aware of that. Yeah, that's Parkman Concrete's plant. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And the racks in the rear of the subject are loaded with their inventory, correct?
There would be inventory. Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's yeah.
And I'm looking at all your pictures. Do you see a loading door anywhere in this building?
There are no traditional loading doors. No.
Okay. In respect to the cap rate, you have on your page 10 included 3 outside sources, Colliers, CBRE, and Cushman and Wakefield. Regardless whether you categorize this as industrial or retail or office, there are absolutely none that go as low as 4.5, correct?
Yeah, no, as I stated, you know, the reasonings, you know, I as I stated, they do fall outside the range. But again, it's based on factors of the age, size, and those factors. But yes, I won't dispute that, yes.
Okay, and at this point on Gateway, what's happening surrounding the property? I think you've kind of let's just see. It's not really showing in your pictures the neighborhood. Maybe perhaps page 3, which is the representation. Is this not being surrounded by residential at this point in time?
Oh yes. Behind it is residential, yes, and on the opposite side would be residential, yes.
And there used to be a railway down the front, and that's all a green path now, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, those are my questions.
Okay, Gail, any questions?
Just in regards to, the, property, there was a sale in 2015, so I take it that was land or a building that was, demolished. I'm wondering about a building permit for the new building that was built in 2016. Do you have a building permit? Was there an inspection?
I non-inspected the property. I didn't put the permit in there, but I can do a quick check. Just, I mean, there would be a permit taken out for the building, so just let me see if I can just find it here quickly here. Yeah, 2016 new construction. Yes, yeah, there was a permit taken out back in 2016 for the building. Yes, so.
And what was the value?
Let's see if they show it on here. Well, the construction estimate on the permit I have here, I apologize, I didn't put it in my brief, is roughly around $776,150. That's the declared construction value on the permit. So
Yeah, I will caution here that we're not valuing on the cost approach, so the
Correct, yeah.
permits aren't particularly revealing.
So was there an inspection done at that time of the building?
Myself, no.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone's inspected since then. No, I apologize.
Okay. Thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Okay, Michelle, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, the question I have, on the wall height, it says 22 feet, but it appears to be a peak ceiling. So is that at the peak of the ceiling? Because certainly the sides don't appear to be 22 feet.
Yeah, that's what would be my guess. As I stated, I haven't inspected it, so this might be something maybe going forward I have to take a look at. Maybe you might have to be adjusted going forward. So, but I'm just going by the information I have, unfortunately. And a lot of times on the permits, they will give us the wall heights and such, but I didn't add the building to our role, so I'd have to do some more research into why we derived the 22 foot. But I'd assume it would probably be the peaks, just because you're right, it is obviously like a gable style roof. So
Yeah. So the average clear height would be less than 22 feet.
Yeah, overall, yeah. If you look at it, yeah, it's not like a flat roof or anything like that. So
yeah, okay. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Neufeld. You can proceed.
Thank you. So the subject property, the building is not a warehouse. It's a showroom and a display office for 909 Gateway next door. 909, there's an actual plant. They take the aggregate, they stamp and form the precast on site. This is a limited run facility, more for decorative. Their main facility is in Steinbach, and this was a satellite operation. So it's part of this particular complex. The back, of course, is used for outside storage. But if you'll note from all the pictures that the building is windowed all around. It is not a warehouse. It's a showroom display, so to speak, with adjacent uses. The location on Gateway, when they built this building as a showroom office, was approved, but industrial would not be approved. And because this building is dependent on the one next door, they're sharing the same deficiency as the encroachment of residential housing in the neighborhood. Their days, the usage is grandfathered to what they do, but the future usage is would not be allowed. The current usage would not be allowed if it were requested today, and it would be my guess here is that we're probably looking at a multifamily development site if this were ever put on the market. So in effect, the lifespan of the capitalization is, like the previous location, is quite limited. That's what will happen in the future. It's not going to be sold for the current use, which is an owner-occupied precast concrete manufacturing and showroom. For our calculation of it, we're trying to look at a similar style of operations, and the rents are a little bit more difficult. And actually, the previous property, 650 King Edward, is a great comp because that's what they do there. It's a retail warehouse. That was $534 a foot. And some of the other ones we looked at on our rent table were on our page 4. Not a lot of activity in this area. Most industrial is owner occupied. There's ones that spring to mind are on 672 Gateway, which was Polar Windows, but that was owner occupied, and next door Royal Sports, that's owner occupied. Similar, industrial buildings in the transitioning area. Some of the rents we had looked at were on our page 4, 301 Cree, which has a similar location quality in that it's a sort of a smaller industrial area, and that's an office location in an industrial building at $813 a foot. And 446 Brooklyn, which is a mixed use building, and that's just off Ness. Again, quite not a lot of this style of building, which is an office use in an industrial building, best way to describe it. And when we looked at this chart of our rents, which incidentally, our primary reason for selecting these is that they were clean of influences, that we're not going to come to a hearing and present a gross rent when it's net or vice versa, or that it was full of tenant inducements. When we looked at these rents here, the highest we found was $950, and that's a brand new construction on Mountain View. That's in the Aram of Rosser. And that's probably what we gave the most weight to at $950 a foot. There are retail facilities nearby in Gateway Road, but they're in shopping areas. This isn't a shopping area. In regard to vacancy, we're looking at this as a bit of a cross between an industrial use and an office use, and we took the citywide rates. We did not take the local rates because the sample area in Northeast Winnipeg is far too small. There's a very strong lack of investment properties in this area. These are generally owner occupied, which is why we went with the citywide rates, 8.05%, reflecting both an office use and an industrial use, and looking at a blend in between. An alternate use would be likely, the only thing could get approved would be an office conversion, and that would take some money to convert it to that. And again, non-recoverables, because they exist. Our shortfall was calculated looking at the tax rate, and again, this one really shows the problem with the model, where the value of a building, if the assessor had $1 million, well, the taxes on this would be $25,000 a year, or over $6 a foot. And how can you have a shortfall at 385? It's an error in the model, in that the shortfall should relate to the value, and it should be linked to the income, not to a fixed rate, because in the market, that's how much it's going to cost to carry this empty space. We've capped it at 7, and again, not a building that's tracked. This would be an owner occupant sale. As I mentioned, I would see down the road that if it were sold, perhaps an office conversion after spending $500,000 in renovation, which is going to drive the cap upwards. And comparing it to a prime rate of 6%, we've listed the deficiencies. I mentioned the proximity to residential. What planning does is, first in, you get to preserve your rights. So the precast plant was built in the late 1950s. They can stay as long as they never change their usage. This operation, 2016 office, it's more acceptable. It would still be based with restrictions. It would not be allowed to have outside storage if it hadn't already had that, and that's a legal right. Other than that, I mean, it's a perfectly good building, but it's just a question on the use, and the future here right now would likely be shifted to land value only for multifamily. On that basis, It's a little over half an acre. Typically land is for apartment constructions anywhere from 800 to 1.1 million an acre. But that's the way the market would look at it. The hypothetical valuation we have here is based on its value being what it is. In both in summing in describing this and summing up, I think that trying to put a cap rate on this that nobody supports is another error in the model. That's my presentation.
All right. Questions, Mr. Harlan?
Yeah, I guess I just one question. So regarding the cap rate you've applied, then so I'm just curious because I know you kind of explained your reasoning for it. So then I mean I know you've classified it as an office, we have it as industrial. So it's obviously a very unique situation with this property. So would you? So I guess are you saying classify it more as an office space? I guess if you had to, I guess then just based on.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've been in it, and why I would classify it as office is we're thinking it's not going to get like you're always going to be thinking of alternate use. It would not get approved for its usage today with the encroachment of residential. It would have to be something that fits in the zoning and would not produce objections from the neighborhood. So I'm thinking of neighborhood service, small office for accounting, insurance, perhaps medical would be somewhere it would go, or perhaps a small retail operation. But because the building is essentially unimproved without finish, you're going to spend $50 to $60 a foot to convert it to that usage. So it's not an automatic. I'm switching it to office tomorrow and I get a good cap. No, you're pumping in several $100,000 to do it. And I think that if you were going to do this and you think about the future, it is capable of generating more than 950 with a capital infusion. So that's not valuable today. That's what I see as someone interested in it would do. They could get more rent and put in $500,000, and whatever rent they get out of it would cap at 7. So the cap is sort of distinct and separate from the achieved rent. It's going to be what would the market look at on this basis, and it's what we do here every day in our office. So I think it's a fair number.
Okay, those are the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Gail?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Michelle?
There's no income statements in either presentation. Just the rent only I want to know about, Rocky. What do they have as an actual rent?
It's owner occupied, so there's no income to speak of.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I have no questions, so thank you very much for your presentations. We'll take a 10-minute break now, and then we'll come back and hopefully do the last 8 properties in an hour and a half.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Right, we'll come back into session. We'll move to item number 1, 237 Lawson Crescent. So you can begin, Mr. Harlan.
Thank you, Chairman. The file number is 22-2621. The roll number is 10006426426400. The address is 237 Lawson Crescent, and the owner's number company 100-79704, Manitoba Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on a reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $908,000. So we go to page 1 of my brief, look at the bottom, description information. This is a 1-story building. The actual and effective year builds were 2007. The wall heights are 14 feet. Zone M2 manufacturing general. The land area is 16,560 square feet with a plan area of 4,000 square feet, which gives us a land plan area of 4.14. And the leasable area is 4,000 square feet. If we go to page 2 of my brief, you'll see the request for information have been received. For the below that subject sale history, the most recent sale happened December 24th, 2020 for $1.2 million. And the bottom of page 2 is just there's no subject property leases in place. Go to page 3 of my brief. You'll just see the subject property map. So again, this is located in 237 Lowson. So at the top of my brief, you'll see the larger view photo. Again, this is very close to Keniston Boulevard. Just north there is Sterling Park and Line Road. And at the bottom of page 3, you just more see more of a zoom photo. So the subject where it's on Lowson Crescent and then Rothborough Road, whereas the other adjacent road is situated on. And then you just see Keniston Boulevard just east of that, or west. So we go to page 4 of my brief. These are some photos of the subject. So the top bit there, that's a photo of the subject at the front of the building on Lowson Crescent. And at the bottom of page 4, this is the portion of the building that's would be considered on Rothborough Road, just showing the building. And page 5, same thing. It just shows the rear of the building. Page 5 at the bottom, just the overview of the subject and the property, how it's situated on the parcel of land. And I will note that the entrance is on Rothborough Road. There's no entrance on the front of Lowson there, if you can see, as you can see. So page 6 of my brief, you'll just see another photo of the front of the building. And the bottom of page 6 again, just another photo of the subject, just from a different angle. And bottom in the page 7, this just shows the rear of the building. So go to page 8 of my brief is the income workup. So again, this is a 4,000 square foot building or leasable area building. We're playing a model rent of $10.81 a square foot, which gives us a potential rent of $43,240. We're allowing 3.5% of vacancy, which gives us an effective gross income of $41,727. We're allowing 3% for non-recoverable expenses, as well as $3.85 square foot shortfall, which then gives us an overall net operating income of $39,936. And then lastly, we're applying an overall capitalization rate of 4.4%, which then gives us an estimated value of $908,000. Let's go to page 9 of my brief. You'll see some of my rent comparables. So my rent comparables range in size, or sorry, the lease start dates range from May 2016 to June 2020, or Jan 2020. Lease terms range from 5 to 10 years. The leasable areas range from 3,000 to 4,789 square feet. Wall heights range from 50 to 24 feet. Effective year bills range from 1962 to 2008. And the net rents range from $10.08 a square foot to $16.01 a square foot. And then you'll just also see the locations. So these are, some of these are located in St. James, DeBry, Winnipeg Avenue, which is in central Winnipeg. So yeah, there's definitely some outside areas trying to find comparables similar to the subjects. So that's why I kind of bracketed it a bit further away. Going to page 10 regarding the capper information. This actually would be very similar to the previous property we spoke to. Again, this being a 2007 building, good location, being close to Keniston Boulevard, small area, land plan areas 4.14, which is pretty typical for industrial. These would be the main driving factors for the lower cap rate. So I won't dispute that it falls outside our typical 20 to 80% of it. Those would be the driving factors for the lower cap rate. Page 11 of my brief, just some municipal assessment activities group information. Going to page 12, this is just the income expense mailer. This is an owner-occupied property, or it was owner-occupied when it this property, so there's no income information on the property. This continues on page 13, 14, 15. Page 16, I've just showed a floor plan of the building, the amount of information we have. So this just kind of shows a breakdown of the how the building is situated. So this is just kind of showing the floor plan of the building. And then pages 17 through 32, I'm not going to really go into. These are just land transfer documents, just to indicate that the sale was a good sale and arm's length sale. So I'm not going to really go through these. I don't think it's necessary to go through that. So, and that concludes my presentation. I asked the board to confirm the value, and I am open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Yes, the valuation page, whatever page it's on here, was this all done by the model?
Page 8, but yes, this was a model check, correct.
Okay, and I was just looking at the information that was provided to you. You have this property registry document. Did you not send out a questionnaire to them on the purchase?
I believe we did, but sometimes we don't receive them, so I don't have anything on file, unfortunately. So,
well, I sent it in personally. I'm just wondering why you don't have it, because you asked questions of the owner about the transaction, and I don't see it here.
I mean, looking at our evidence, I don't have anything on file, so I don't know where it is, unfortunately. I apologize, but I would have put it in there if I had it. I just don't have it, so.
Okay, well, but that's the purpose of these questionnaires, right? You want to ask questions like you don't just rely on the proper register. You ask them, was this an arm's length? Was there other motivations, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah.
Okay. And in this case, same question as before in the cap rate. How you've got these outside sources who you put in your as evidence. None of them speak to anything as low as 4.4%. How can you justify your model if it's not supported by outside sources?
Well, as I stated, we're looking at this all sales in the all similar types of sales. So again, I know we're not putting in specific sales for comparison, but again, as I stated with the previous property, based on its age, location, small building, those would be the driving factors for the lower cap rate. So.
Okay, and how about the fact that, I mean, do you not consider in your cap rate that they also must be able to pay a mortgage with the proposed income you've selected?
I don't know. I can't speak to that specifically.
Okay.
No, so
That's fine. And on page 12, of course, it is owner occupied, correct?
that is correct. Yes.
And who's the owner? Do you know?
I think, well, we have it as a numbered company, so the 10079704704 Manitoba Limited. So
Page 31, address for service, 1400 Kenniston, which is across the street. You know who that is?
oh yes, that is the Mercedes dealership, I believe. So
Now, considering it's across the street, did you ever consider the effects of assemblage?
I did not know.
Okay. Any chance you've been in the building?
This building I have not inspected. No.
Those are my questions. Thanks.
Okay, Gail, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Michelle?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Neufeld.
Yes, thank you. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but my business isn't just all about tax appeal. I'm their real estate advisor. I was involved in the transaction, and that's what I do. And one of the reasons I'm not filling out the evidence for the hearings is because if I put down a value here, as an appraiser, I'm stuck with it. And this is a non-QSPAP compliant document. So I'm here under the basis of a consulting arrangement under my professional designation, which is why from time to time I will make changes just as a consulting basis to somebody else's workup, which I'm going to do today. But it also explains my background. Now, when the dealership at Mercedes, they've been looking for land in the area for a long time because they do not have enough land on their dealership. This has to do with the way the changing of automobile retailing, where the manufacturers do not inventory vehicles. You take possession of your vehicle, you put it on your site, they mark it as sold. And that's happened all over. And you're going to hear about more of it today in some other properties. So this was what's called an assemblage sale, finding a site nearby for storing their vehicles, and it's a business decision to purchase, which is what I wrote on their form, which was submitted, and now it's not here in evidence. It's a little annoying that we get penalized if there's not a signature, but if we provide some truthful information, it doesn't show up. So I'm just spouting off a bit of steam here, but we go to the trouble to explain what it was. Now, the specific details of the transaction were the truck dealership. You know that Mercedes is very active in commercial trucks now, and they had obtained land next door where the body shop is on for storage, and now they have to get this land for storage. When I inspected it, there were 3 trucks in there that were being pre-serviced for delivery. Weird thing about it is they were for the city of Winnipeg. That's what they're doing here. And if they didn't have this facility, the unfortunate part of it, they would have to take their service and send it to a competitor for the pre-delivery inspection rather than Mercedes. And not a competitor of Mercedes. they also own the Peterbilt dealership. So these would end up going to Cummins or somebody else. So it's all a business decision, and the weight of putting on a sale across the street, you'll notice that in the picture on my page 1 that the natural extension of Rothwell goes into the road going to the Mercedes dealership. This is why it was purchased. And I'm just trying to emphasize this is that we don't look at sales in a case like this because it's motivated by a different reason. Now, in regard to the value, I didn't do this workup. I've been in the building. I disagree with what's put in here. I don't disagree with what the assessor's rent is. I think that's reasonable for the neighborhood and for what is there. And so I'm just changing our number to the assessor's rent of 1081. I'll give you my new numbers. I also disagree with the vacancy rate that was put in ours because, as I said, we're trying to do provide a bit of a model concept on that, and you can see that what we put there was a blend of vacancy for industrial and then Fort Garry industrial. I think that probably a more appropriate vacancy for something like this would be the citywide industrial vacancy rate, which is 6.2%. So I've made that change. The non-recoverables, again, real estate has non-recoverables. It's not something you can take out of value because the model says so. We sell properties in our business more than any other company in Winnipeg, commercial properties. You have to put in non-recoverables. Unless if you don't present an accurate view to your investor, your purchaser. It's fraudulent, really. If you try to manage those out of the picture. The shortfall, again, it should be tied to income. Everyone has a different shortfall. It should be calculated separately. These properties today are showing the shortfalls with the shortfall system. The taxes alone on this are $5.45 a square foot, and that cost you don't get away from on a vacancy risk side. So we have it at 805. So my changes after all that to the NOI are create an NOI of 35,724. Then as far as the cap goes, this is not an investment property by any stretch. This is a end user property. The building is very, very basic. It was purchased for the land value to be able, and the compound at the back to be able to store their vehicles on site nearby. And I think that that's the focus here, is that the building really didn't mean a lot to them. The land did. So we're talking about 16,000 square feet, which is about 4/10 of an acre. And land in this area, I mean, there have been some hot sales across the street from IKEA. This isn't across from IKEA. This is next door. If you look at the picture, that's a metal recycling operation to the north. It's been rezoned M2, but these are all M3 grandfathered uses on Lowson. The metal recycling, the hazardous material storage, there's 2 of those, aluminum welding, and the brewery. That is what is here. The city has rezoned it. The issue on that is again the encroachment. When Lowson came on the market, the land on the other side of the tracks in Linden Woods was still all vacant. Now it's been developed. So again, you want to change in usage, you're going to get neighborhood opposition. So it is a downward factor on it. I don't know if a 7.5 to me sounds a bit aggressive, unaggressive. It seems a bit on the high side. I would probably think a 7% would be something that you'd get here, because there'd still be some interest in this for users. So with all the changes, I was thinking 35,724 for NOI at 7% comes to 510,344, rounded to 510,000. Quite similar to the assessment from the last cycle. And again, caution to look past the sale. If you're predicated on a multi-million-dollar business and obtaining and filling contracts, and the idea of buying land next door to you is not a real estate value. It's a assemblage value, a business value. So that's what I think would be more appropriate, 510,000. And sorry for all the changes, but I've been in the building. Like I said, I was involved in the transaction. Provided advice. They knew what they were getting into. They did it for the business. Thank you.
All right. Questions, Mr. Harlan?
Just one. So then are they planning on keeping the building then, or are they planning on maybe demolishing it? Or I mean, I know they purchased it for storing cars, so I was like, I guess they're just gonna still keep the building, or I'm not sure what they're gonna do with it going forward, I guess, or
Yeah, at the time they were thinking of perhaps doing a demolition and a resizing of the building. Like a detail shop there is a really good idea, but you see the way the building is sited, it's badly located, and it like hogs the yard. You want a bigger compound, and you're building off in a corner. After purchase, it became obvious that redevelopment would be a nightmare with property and planning. And so I guess they're trying to work around the issue right now.
okay. Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Gail?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Michelle?
No questions, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. On that property, let's go to the West End 488 Burnell. Let me just pull up the files. Item 2. Okay, you can begin on 488 Burnell.
Thanks,
Mr.
Chairman.
Harlan.
Thanks, Chairman. The file number is 22-909. The roll number is 1303007510. The address is 48 Burnell Street, and the owner is Unigraphics Manitoba Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on a reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $1,004,000. $1,004,000. I actually do have a recommendation I'm going to put forth. Just doing some reviews of the subject and some of the information Mr. Newfield's brief at the time. So again, we're assessing the property at $1,004,000. I just wanted to, maybe if you go to page 8 of my brief, I can explain what my adjustment is basically. So page 8 is my workup. So we have 2 premises on this piece of property. This is the 12,903 leasable area would be the main area, whereas 9,069 square feet is more of like the second floor space. And it's not exactly the greatest space, so I feel like maybe the rent we're applying is slightly high. So just as an overall valuation, what I'm going to recommend is I'm recommending to drop the value from $1,004,000 to $930,000. And that's adjusting the rent for the 9,069 square feet. So that's what basically my recommendation is based on, just adjusting the rent. So I'm not sure if that would be you'd agree to that, but that's what I'm presenting. So.
Okay, what rent would you be using then?
Oh, I'm using the rent from 420 to 342 would be my adjusted rent. Would be for that rent. So I apologize. The overall rent is 463 right now. So the overall rent I'm adjusting to 431.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. Mr. Newfeld, how do you feel about that value? I think you might be muted.
Sorry, I missed the final number.
Oh, it was 903,000.
930. Sorry.
930,
sorry. 930.
930, correct. Not sure if that would be good, but that's what I'm going to be presenting. So.
Okay, and sorry, it's a bit. I have to think a couple of seconds about
Yeah.
this.
No problem. Taking that. I know it's spur of the moment, so.
No, I'm not. Anytime we have a chance. I don't have any indication from the ownership as to how to deal with this.
Sure, that's understandable.
Let's just go through this and I'll present and keep it in mind.
Sure. Okay, I'll continue the brief. Thank you.
Okay.
So if we go to so again now, so the 2023 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2021 is for $1,004,000. Again, I'm going to stick with my recommendation at 930. But if you look at the property description information, this is there are 4 buildings on the property. It's a 2-story building. The actual year builds range from 1912 to 1959. When we were applying an overall 50-year built of 1948. The wall heights range from 9 to 15 feet. It is zoned R2 res 2 family. So subject being industrial usage would be a legal non-conform use, but it's an older building, so it's been there a long time. The land area is 27,813 square feet with a plan area of 12,903, which gives us a land to plan area of 2.16. And we are applying an overall leasable area of 21,972 square feet. So if we go to page 2 of my brief, you'll see the request for information had been received. There are no recent sales and there are no subject property leases in place. So on page 3 of my brief, you'll see the subject property where it's located on Burnell Street. So you'll see north of that is Sargent, south is St. Matthews Avenue. So you're just getting kind of an idea where it's positioned. And the bottom of page 3, this just shows a closer view of the subject property. Turn to page 4 of my brief. So this is the front of the subject property on Burnell. And then if you look at the bottom of page 4, this is just another angled view of the subject side of the building. Page 5 gives a better view of the subject. So you can see the whole building in its entirety. So there's like the main building here, and then you have these other 2 pieces of building that are attached to the building as well. If you look at the bottom of page 5, then you can kind of see a better view of the subject and see how it's a 2-story building. At least the 2 buildings at the front would be the 2-story portions. Going to page 6, just another photo of the front of the building. And if we turn to page 7, this is just the rear, showing the building from the rear of the subject. And again, it's located, as I stated, in more of a residential area. Now, so if we go to page 8 of my brief, this is my income workup. So again, the leasable area for the main floor space is roughly 12,903 square feet. We're using the land rent or model rent of $494. For the 9,069 square feet, this would be considered the second floor space. We're classifying it as mezzanine space, but it is like more of a secondary floor space, but that's how we're classifying it. So again, our model was 420, but again, we're using I'm going to be going forward and using 342, which gives us an overall rent of $4.31 a square foot, which gives us a revised potential rent of $94,757. We're still applying the 6.5% vacancy, which gives us a revised, which gives us an effective gross income of $88,598. The shortfall we're applying still the same at 385 and 3% for non-profit expenses. So we get an overall adjusted NOI to $80,441. And lastly, we're applying a capitalization rate of 8.65%, which then gives us a revised estimated market value or estimated value of $930,000. So if we go to page 9 of my brief, you'll see some of my rent comparables. So these range from Jan 2016 to 2020 for the lease start dates. Lease terms range from 3 to 15 years. Leasable areas range from 10,000 square feet to 24,720. Wall heights range from 12 to 20 feet. Effective year bills range from 1945 to 1969. And the overall net rents range from $4.25 a square foot to $4.93 a square foot. And yeah, so some of these are located in Aaron Street, Wall Street. So it would be in the vicinity. Dougal obviously a bit further away, and Century would be more in the St. James area. So, page 10 of my brief, it's just some cap rate information. Again, we're using an 8.65 cap. This is an older building, definitely dated, it has some issues and such. So, this cap rate won't fall within your typical range of cap rates. So I believe the cap rate, does support the fact of it being an older building, lower land to plan ratio, and those factors. So that's why we've applied the 8.65% cap. Page 11 of my brief is just the municipal assessment actors with information. Continue to page 12. 12 and 13, just the income expense mailer. This is a fully owner occupied property, so there is no income in place, so just the expenses. And that concludes my presentation. I am open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Neufeld?
In regard to your dimensions, where did they come from? Like I'm looking at, for example, the picture on page 7. And there's it looks to me to be about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections of the building. Were all of these floor areas counted in, or do you know?
Yeah, I actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because last night I was actually looking at all, because it's also being an older building. We have floor plans on file, but some of them are really dated and they're kind of hand drawn. So yeah, it's very difficult to get the exact accurate. I'm just kind of basically going by what we have on file. So I haven't been in the building or inspected it. So yeah, these are just basically what we have on file, and from what I was able to ascertain from the older floor plans I have. So yeah, unfortunately I can't really speak to maybe there might be some discrepancies here and there, but typically, if I looked at the mailer too, but unfortunately they don't give us the area overall, so I'm just kind of going by what we have.
I was just referring to that, we had been in the building and we noted that several sections were unheated and not considered floor area. And,
okay.
and if you had no information to the contrary, then it's just, I'm just looking at trying to understand what the differences were here. And also the same speaks to the basement. And now, in regard though to the basement, you've got, sorry, I missed your page here. 9,000, 9,069 square feet, and I do have from an old database 8,611 square feet. That's the City of Winnipeg database.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, if you look at page 1 of my brief, the basement area is that we have at 8,611. The 9,069, that would be more. That's like we're considering that the secondary space of all this secondary space.
Okay, yes. So our issue is the upper level usable space then.
Yeah, I think there's some. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Did you have any rents for basements?
I do not have any rents for basements, no.
Those are my, variable, the ages here, 1912 to 1959. Do you know which part was which?
I think, I tried to figure that out actually. From what information I have, I think the 12,000 square feet of usable area, that would be like the main building, I guess the brown one, the main building, that is what we have in files in 1912. So
okay. And then the I guess we'll call it the white roofed part and the section behind it were later additions.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
All right, Gail, any questions?
Just a question. You had mentioned the effective date, 1958 or 1948?
Sorry, yeah, the effective year built with the entirety, we had it 1948 is what we're using.
Okay, and the NOI, the adjusted NOI in your recommendation, what was it? 824?
I apologize. It was 80,441.
80,441. Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Michelle, questions?
No questions, thank you.
All right, you can proceed, Mr. Neufeld.
Thank you. Yes, I just to make life simple here, I think we're not going to argue about anything except the basement rent and the usable area. I think that our differences are relatively minor, and the board can decide how it pleases. the issue with the usable areas is you can see from our pictures that we were in the building, and there were certain sections on it, and it's a difference of 1,412 square feet that were I believe that these are the breezeways connections between the section, and if you look at West Side Breezeway, I'm just trying to detail this down because I can't find my notes as to what those actual dimensions were. We deemed them to be not usable area, and I'm looking at it right now, and just to give you idea, this was based on our observations, not the area. Oh, it's not working for me. So looking at the building on the overhead, there's a section on the east side and a section on the west side, which are all low ceilinged, that we never counted as rentable space because it wasn't rentable space. It was just an unneeded connector, outside storage sort of place. So that's the difference. That's one difference. As far as the rent attributed to the upper level, again, we're not overly concerned about any differences there. It would be the basement area, and in our report, on page 4, we actually do have basement rents in loft buildings. And I have inspected 92 Gomez, 50 cents a foot. It worked out to net. This is a 4-story loft warehouse building built in, I think, 1910 thereabouts. This is what loft buildings get in the basement space if there's any utility to it. Just trying to highlight which other ones would be basement space in our little workup here. I believe William and Pacific might be basement space as well at $1 and $1.11. And looking at the subject pictures, the basement is on page 7 is basement. So you can see it's a rather low ceiling basement, unfinished, and dead storage. Page, there's another basement picture in here. The page, oh, this is the unusable portion here, page 11. Now it's coming back to this was the section where the heater was broken and it wasn't working, and it's just unheated. And this is an older section of the building. So this is our 1,400 square feet of dead space, which we weren't using or attributing to it. And I believe the bottom of page 12 is basement. And give you an idea of the construction and what's happening in the building, page 13 is just showing a connection between the buildings and how it's shifting away, typical for its age. So this is just poor quality space. Even as dead storage, we don't disagree it has some value, because you'd have to put your dead storage off site, and putting $2 on it is, in my opinion, quite charitable to the assessment department. So our number at 687,000 is reasonable. I think the big difference is, as I'm pointing out, is the dead space and the rent being put on the basement. For your information, the assessment of 879,000 is under appeal at the municipal board. I believe that there were some errors in the way that this one building was looked at, and hopefully we'll be able to correct it. So I appreciate the recommendation, but this is the number we think is fair. And again, feel free to change the cap rate. It's not an issue here. It's with the building. I would want to point out one thing just to show our the way we look at properties. Our shortfall here is 377, which is below the model, because we have a low performing building on income, and that's an error in the model. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, questions?
I guess not so much a question, just a kind of someone I wanted to mention. Because I know we're talking about the basement space in the field, but we're not actually technically including the basement space in our leasable area though. Like the 12,903 square feet is the main floor, and the upper area is the main floor area of all buildings, and then the 9,069 is just all upper area. So we're not really including any basement area there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I guess then what we'd characterize it as the inferior space, and if you look at the pictures, forget about the basement, but
Okay.
for example, page 6, that's the deck on one of the upper level floors.
Okay.
Yeah, and page 8, the bottom of page 8, this gives you an idea of what the inside of it looks like. This isn't pretty. And bottom of page 9 is leakage coming through from an upper level floor. It's vintage. I think, as I recall, we did go out and do some measurements on this, and I'm suffering memory loss here as to what parts we looked at and what parts we didn't. But when you say that though, because I'm looking at I'm actually okay, I see what you're saying. See, 21,972 is okay. I agree with what you're saying.
Okay, but
we just think it has a lower value. And
okay.
even if you looked at all of the rents that we're showing on our page 15, I mean, these are loft warehouse rents. There's nothing over 425 here.
Okay. Okay, no, that's good. That's all the questions I have, and thank you.
Okay, questions, Gail?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Michelle?
No questions, thank you.
All right, let's move a little bit further west to Wall 603 Wall Street. Jean, we've got a lot yet to accomplish, so let's take the time we need, but also being cognizant of the time we've got. All right, you can proceed, Mr. Harling.
One thing I'd just like to mention is I just want to make sure, because I noticed on the initially the application there was a classification issue. I'm not sure if that's still an issue in there.
Is there a classification issue on this one, Mr. Neufeld?
Oh, yeah, there is. But we're doing that outside of the border revision process with an application to the city. There's some sort of dance thing going there. So for today, you could just confirm it.
Okay. All right, so on value then, Mr. Harling.
Thanks, Chairman. The file number is 22-3033. The roll number is 13011673100. The address is 603 Wall Street, and the owner's number company is 643-4925 Manitoba Limited. I actually do have another recommendation for this property. Again, this is another property I had some chance to just look at a bit, and just looking at how we've been evaluating it. And I felt like the model rent we were applying was a bit, there needed to be some tweaks and such. Just it didn't seem, correct to me. So, so just give me an idea again here. If you go to page 8 of my brief, you'll see we have the 3 leasable areas, and we have the 3 model rents. So we're using a total overall rent of $10.57. So I'm making an adjustment to that, to just the overall rent to $9.12 a square foot. So overall, though, I'm reckoning a value from $1,065,000 to $915,000. So that's the rent.
915?
915, correct.
Okay, and which rents were adjusted?
Actually, all of them. So
all of them. Okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what, premise number 23476 and 23478. Sorry, those are the only two I adjusted. The 905 at the top I've left, so.
Okay, so the 1075 was reduced to what?
922.
9.22, and then the 1224 was reduced.
913. Which gives us an overall of 912.
Yeah, so it does. Okay, how do you feel about that valuation? I notice you're still quite a bit apart.
Yeah, there's some issues that go back a few years, and I'm pretty sure the owner wants me to continue onwards.
Okay,
No problem. I will continue.
yep, continue then.
Okay, so I'll just so again, the 23 best value based on the rep date of April 1st, 2021. Again, we are 161,965, but again, I've using the 915 that I've stated. So looking at the bottom of page 1, some prop description information. This is a 1-story building. It was built in 1976 with an effective year built in 1976. The wall height is 14 feet. This is zone M1 manufacturing light. The land area is 13,021 square feet with a plan area of 7,650, which gives us a land plan of 1.70, and we're applying an overall leasable area of 7,700 square feet. If we go to page 2 of my brief, you'll just see the income request for information has been received. There are no recent sales. Last sale occurred in March 8, 2012. If we go to page 3 of my brief, you'll see the subject property map. Again, this is located on Wall Street, and you'll see what's close by. Aaron Street, St. Matthews. If we go to page 4 of my brief, you'll just see a more zoomed in photo on Wall Street. Again, where the property is situated. Now, if we turn to page 5, this is just a photo of the subject, just in the aerial view, just to show the property, how it's situated on a piece of land. This is further continued on page 6. Again, just showing the front of the building, and then the bottom page 6 just shows the rear of the building. And page 7 just shows the side of the building. Now if we go to page 8 of my brief, this is our income workup. Again, as I've already presented, I've adjusted the rent we were applying. So again, we're using an overall rent of $9.12 a square foot. This gives us a revised potential rent of $70,246. We are applying the 6.5% for vacancy, which gives us revised effective gross income to $65,680. We're applying the shortfall 385 and then 3% for non-recurring expenses, which gives us a overall revised income net operating income of $61,783. And then lastly, we are applying an overall capitalization rate of 6.75%, which gives us a revised market value, as I mentioned, of $915,000. If we go to page 9 of my brief, just some of my rent comparables. Lease start dates range from December 2017 to September 2019. Lease terms range from 3 to 5 years. Leasable areas range from 2,520 square feet to 33,321 square feet. Wall heights range from 12 to 19 feet. Effective year builds range from 1977 to 2007, and the rents range from $8.50 a square foot to $12. And you'll see the locations of the properties on Aaron Street. So they're close to McPhillips. So just go to page 10 of my brief. Again, we're applying a 6.75 cap. So that does fall within our 20th to 8th percentile range for the city cap applied cap rates. And I believe it's further supported by the outside sources as well. Go to page 11 of my brief, just some municipal assessment act excerpt information. And if we turn to page 12, this is the actual mailer in place that was provided. So you'll see the rent in place there, or the rent they're gaining on page 12, 13. And then on page 14, this is just the actual, they are gross rents, so, but these would be leases in place at the time. That concludes my presentation. I asked the board for the value, and I am open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Rocky?
Yeah, thanks. Now, in your recommendation, what was the gross potential rent?
It was 70,246.
70246. Yeah, I'm just trying to see if we can narrow anything down here.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And the dimensions, I notice on page 1, you have 7,650 square feet.
Yeah, the plan area, I think there's a 50 square feet discrepancy. Yeah, I maybe it might just be a typo or error in the system. Looking at if you go to page 14 of the brief, which is the mailer, if you add up all the leasable areas, it does equal 7,700 square feet. So,
sorry, say that in page, and I was getting to that next.
Okay,
page.
sure.
If you tell me your math again on page 14, right?
Correct, yes.
No, I'm just trying to read the bottom number there. If that was, I've been in the building, 3050, 2550, and 1400 is my knowledge of it.
I'm pretty sure it says from what I understand, it looks like 3050, 2550, and it looks like 2100.
21. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Looks good too to me. So that's I think I looked at some other ones and they look the same, so that's why I assume that's correct.
Okay. Right. I have to grab my printed file on here. I was looking for a better, I see what you're saying. So if that was a 2100, then that works out to 7,600.
77.
7,700.
77, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay. So the rest of the value you didn't change in regard to any sort of vacancy or cap rate. It's still 6.75% then?
Correct, yes. The other parameters are the same. I just adjusted the rent overall, yes. Or the potential
Okay.
rent.
All right. Now, in regard to that mailer, did you look at the income they declared?
Yes, I noted the overall income, yes, their net income, yes, I have.
And it's a fair bit different than the 70,000 you used, correct?
There is there's a difference, correct, yes.
Okay. They're actually saying 27,000, and they are indicating that the rent on page 14 includes taxes, includes insurance, includes management, includes waste and repair, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. They've indicated that, yeah.
And those are the same numbers. That's exactly what they put in here. They repair 17,000 and taxes of 20,000. So I'm just wondering on the basis of what they're actually generating with reasonably repair is on the high side, and I'm sure you're not going to disagree with me, but it appears to me that they're probably around 35,000 to 40,000 net operating income. And I'm just wondering, I mean, I appreciate that you made a change, but your number is still a fair bit different from what they're actually declaring, correct?
There is a difference. I won't dispute that, yeah.
Okay, those are my questions. Thanks.
Okay, Michelle, any questions?
Yeah, have you been in the 3 units that are within that structure? Like, do you know what type of quality there is inside?
No, unfortunately, I haven't inspected. I'll just mention I haven't inspected any of the properties on the docket today, unfortunately. So I can't speak to the specific qualities. So no, unfortunately, I don't know the specific conditions of the units themselves.
Okay, I'll wait for Rocky's presentation to ask that question again then. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay, Gail?
I have no questions. Thank you.
All right. I have no questions, so you can proceed, Rocky.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, we have an issue with the property, and I'm not entirely sure of what the actual dimensions are. There was a dispute about 5 years ago on the dimensions of it, and I'm not saying the assessor is wrong. I'm just saying that there was an issue. One unit is owner occupied, and that's the Brothers Lock. That it's their building, and if you look at the income statement on the assessor's page 14, you'll note that their gross rent is $9 in comparison to the other sites. One's at $750 and gross, and the other one is at $1650 gross. So they have slotted themselves in, not at the low end, not at the high end, but in the middle. So we think that the statement is relatively accurate. As I mentioned when I was asking the assessor's question, the maintenance repair were rather high on his page 12 for this particular year. You wouldn't necessarily seen them that high. So our calculation was pretty much to adjust that and to 41,000, and that's taking the NOI that they declared of 27,000 potential income, and pretty much adding almost all the maintenance and repair back in, except for $3,000. So that's how this workup was done. I think it's a pretty fair estimate, and our vacancy is a lower rate because of the way we do it. The city industrial rate 6.2. West End has got a fairly large sample size, and it's low because it's buildings like this. So we had at 4.45%. Shortfall is higher because the taxes are $365 a square foot by themselves. So our NOI is 35,126. And then in regard to the cap rate, I guess the issues with this building, we're a point apart from the assessor, and the downsides on this is if you look at the picture of the building, we have a very low land ratio. Of course, inaccessible by large trucks. So as an industrial building, that's a downside. And we're in a transitioning area. Wall Street, Aaron Street, they have their own sub-market. And we don't have enough information or data on that sub-market. No one does as to what that might, how that might look. But it's essentially it's a small thing. It's a small area, and the building is small. The land is tight. The major issue, in our opinion, has always been the strength of the tenancy in buildings like this, because they're generally you're not signing tenants up regardless of the building for long terms. Everything is a very, very short term. So you're having turnover, not great in the market. And that's why we went higher on this at 775. The old assessment is under appeal, and that all relates to a clarification of the, and I know you don't want to hear about the arguments in the past, but it's exactly what you're looking at today. We see achieved rents at maybe $5-6 a foot, and we have a model at $9 a foot, and it's just missing the mark here on the performance in this category of buildings. There are some inside pictures, and have been in the building. So on page 5, this is the owner's space, the back of it, and it's nothing really fancy there. Working space with a wood framed in mezzanine, which of course is not in the rentable area. And most all these pictures I had to take in the owner space just so as not to disturb the tenants. I think I've got some tenant space here. Oh yes, bottom of page 8 is, at the time we inspected it, was vacant space. And this is what the space looks like. Basically very, very unfinished. Page 9 is the top is the brother space. The bottom picture is a tenant space. And page 10 is more of the tenant space. This is I know I can't pronounce this. They are a First Nations group, and this is one of the reasons we're looking at some of the Nichiwan, why we're looking at potential class. We're really trying to find out what they do, whether or not they're school exempt or not, and we haven't got that yet out of them. Page 11 is empty space. At the time we inspected, also there was a dance studio that had vacated. That's why you're looking at some of these pictures from their office. So it's basically just not turning not a great investment building with a tenant space. It can generate $6 rents, not $9, and that's our difference. That's my presentation.
Okay, questions, Mr. Herlin?
I guess well, panel members asked me this question, but I was just curious, well, I guess you showed in the picture, so the spaces are like, obviously the owner occupied space is like I just noticed on page, I guess it was 6 and 7. So that's the owner's space, I guess you're saying, sorry, I guess, or
6 and 7, 5, 6, yes, 7, yes.
okay. I guess I just curious, since unfortunately I haven't inspected the building either, obviously, or I know you have, but so is there is it kind of a combination? They have some office space in the front, sort of, and then they have warehouse space, kind of, or is it just like one big space, I guess, kind of?
Well, with most of these pictures are of the back space, and then if you look at the picture, let's see, the best one will be the top of page 8. So the office space is the enclosed part that we're looking at behind the protective 2x6 barrier, and that office space is shown on the top of page 9.
Oh, I see what you're saying then. Okay. And I guess I guess you kind of already mentioned in your brief too. So I guess obviously the potential rent that they're getting is higher, but you've taken out the expenses, I guess, because they're gross rents, obviously, and that's where you came up with your rent to $596, I guess, or
yeah. As we're saying, we have one that's at $750 and one's at $1650, and the owner's space at $9, and those are all gross. And so we just looked at the expenses, and we instead of the 43,000 in expenses, I think we're using about 30,000 in expenses. Cutting back that maintenance repair to come up with a net number. So we've included obviously taxes and hydro, which would be on common area hydro, like outside lighting and that, and parking area, professional fees, insurance. And with a statement like this, it's fair to say that this is not done by a professional. So if we estimate it at 41,000, it could be 39,000, it could be 43,000, with a building like this, and depending on the year and the type of expense. So there's a greater range of error. It's not going to be like within a 1 or 2%. It could be 5 to 10% off, but our differences are about 30%. So
okay. And I guess just last quick question is, I mean, I think we already kind of mentioned this too, is so I guess in your valuation, you're using the 7,000 square feet opposed to the 77. I know it's a very minor, but I guess that's just
no, you know what? In the valuation, it's irrelevant because we're using actual rent. If we had put in 7,700, the value would be lower.
Yeah.
Because the shortfall would be higher. Yeah, the discrepancy that came, it was assessed at 7,000 feet, and then the city changed it to 7,700 at the hearing in 2020, and so until that matter is resolved, just for the sake of presentation, we're not going to disagree. But in terms of value, you're using the paid rent. You're not wrong ever.
Okay, those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
All right, Gail, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, Michelle, any questions?
The inside building condition was answered. My only other question is just, obviously not as a primary, but was there any special circumstances to the 2012 sale?
Yeah, the brothers Lock and Ski were a tenant. So they purchased it to secure their premises. It was a tenant occupied purchase. Generally these have less weight in the marketplace as a transaction because you're motivated by you want to stay where you are. You don't want someone buying it from you and kicking you out and having to find a new site. So I don't rely on sales like this, and I don't think they can be adjusted because there's no adjustment factor for what's the motivation of you're in the space and you buy it. It's there. I see no. I don't think weight should be put on it. And we did the sale too, Colliers. So we were first-time participants. I didn't do it. Bob Boris in our office did it.
Is that all your questions?
Yeah, no other questions. Thank you.
Okay. I guess that kind of leads to a question in my mind. You say we shouldn't use the sale because it's basically not arm's length. But we should use the rent even though it's also not arm's length.
Well, that's a good point. And I have no issue with anyone taking that sale the rent and looking at an adjustment. You heard our rationale. Low end 750, high end 1650. The high end rent of 1650 was that finished office space you were looking at. The low end one was an unfinished space, so I showed you the empty space. Brothers is at $9 is their book rent. Is that fair? I mean, book $9 gross. Is that fair? I think so. Looking at the quality of the space, if you said, yeah, it should be higher, I don't know. I don't have an issue with it going higher. It might be $1 or $2 net higher, which takes our blended rate up to about $6.30, maybe $6.50. We're a fair distance apart from what the assessor has on it, no matter what you put on it.
All right.
I don't disagree with you. You feel free to modify it, but I
Okay.
can't see $900,000.
All right. Thank you very much. Then we'll move on to 600 Moray Street. So as soon as everybody has the files open, I'll ask the assessor to proceed.
I'm ready whenever.
Okay, you can go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 22-1995. Roll number is 0708-0359-000. The address is 600 Moray Street, and the owner is MacDon Industries Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on a reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $1,252,000. Looking at page 1 of the bottom of my brief, it's a one-story building. The actual and effective year built from 1979. Wall heights are 18 feet. It is zoned M2 manufacturing general. Planned area is 56,102 square feet, with a planned area of 11,369 square feet. Which gives us a land plan area of 4.93. And we're an overall leasable area again of 11,369 square feet. Going to page 2 of my brief, you'll see the request for information have been received. There are no recent sales. Last one occurred in 2011 for $920,000. And there are no subject leases in place. Go to page 3 of my brief, just the subject property maps. So top of the page 3, that just shows where the subject's located on Moray Street. So you can see what's close to Sturgeon Road, Ness Avenue. So this is kind of more on the St. James kind of western area of this portion of the city, western quadrant, or the industrial, I guess the Murray Park industrial area, if you will, if you want to call it that. And at the bottom of page 3, again, you'll just see where the property is situated on Moray Street. So page 4 of my brief is just some photos of the subject. So this is the front of the building. That's would be facing Moray Street. So this is one of the main front entrance here. And then the back on page 4 of the building. This is actually located on Cree Crescent. So it's just a way to get to the rear of the building. Page 5, you'll just see some photos of the subject. So again, at the top there, you just see the full property, the front entrance and then the back. And the bottom of page 5, just another view of the property just to see where it's situated. Page 6, you'll just see further photos from just different angles just to show the property in its entirety. One thing I will note, I know we have a 4.93 land to planet ratio, but as you can see, most of the space is being used for parking in the back. So, and page 7, I brief, you'll see the back of the building. So you'll just see they have the one loading bay door and then just the one kind of overhead loading door there, and then parking for employees and such in the back. And if we go to page 8 of my brief, so you'll see we have two, at least we have two area premises. So we have the first one at 6,000 square feet. We're using a rent of $796, and then the secondary is at 5,369 square feet at a rent of $6.61 a square foot, which gives us an overall rent of $7.32. I just will note the reasoning for the higher rent on the 6,000 square foot spaces. That is more of an office finished space, whereas the 6,000 square feet would be considered office finished space, and the 5,369 would be considered warehouse space. So that's why there's the differences in rates we've applied. But again, we're using an overall rent of $7.32 a square foot. This gives us a potential rent of $83,249. We're applying 3.5% for vacancy. Gives us an effective gross income of $80,335. We're on 3% for expenses and $3.85 a shortfall, which gives us the net operating income of $76,393. And lastly, we're applying an overall cap of 6.10%, which gives us the estimated value of $1,252,000. So going to page 9 of my reviews, my brief, you'll see my rent comparables. So they range from 2015 to 2019, or December 2015 to September 1st, 2019 for lease start dates. Lease terms range from 3 to 10 years. Leaseable areas range from 4,082 square feet to 7,719 square feet. Wall heights range from 10 to 24 feet. Effective rear belts range from 1976 to 1990. And the net rents range from $7.25 a square foot to $14.95. And then you'll see some of the locations again. Some of my rent comparables are located. So we have Murray Park, Kenniston Boulevard, Fennell Street. So just some of the locations. Page 10 of my brief, the 6.10% cap. So it does fall within our 28th percentile for cap rates. I believe it's further supported by the outside sources. Again, this property being, based on its age, size, again, location, those would be the factors, again, driving factors for the cap rate. Page 11, just some municipal assessment act reserve information. And then pages 12, 13 are just the income and expense mailer. It is in a fully owner occupied property, so there is no income in place. So that concludes my presentation. Ask the board to confirm the value, and I am open for questions. Thank you.
Questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Yes, page 8. Oh, was this all done by the model?
Correct.
And you were talking about the outside of it. Do you know what the surrounding building uses are? Who they are?
I'm not familiar with all the buildings around it. No, I didn't really look into that. No.
Okay, so for example, and this is, I'm not blaming you for this, but I think these pictures are a bit clipped off. For example, page 5, top of page 5, the building to the south, the operation to the south. You're aware it's the same owner?
Yes, that's correct.
And were you aware of the reason they purchased this property?
I am not aware of the specifics of that. No.
Okay. The rents, you chose these rents then, I take it?
Well, the rents are model. The rents are model rent,
The
correct? But the comp's correct. Yes, the comp would be
okay.
Yes.
The 21 Murray Park one, is this the credit union or the financial advisor? Do you know?
I'll be. You know what?
I know.
I apologize.
Yeah,
I can double check.
It's not Stevenson Equipment, so it had to be the financial planner of the bank, I believe, or the mining company's office.
It says here communities. Yeah, you know what? Something. Yeah, I think it says something about community resources support or something, services or something like that. I believe.
Okay,
In there, so.
It's on office. 160 Murray Park, you've got two rents in there. Do you know what they are?
I just have the one, well, I mean, the one rent I have at 725, but that's the only one I'm aware of, so.
You have two listings for 160 Murray Park.
Oh, yes, you're right. I apologize. I do. You're right. Yeah, there is one. I didn't see that one there yet. So, one of the tenants is D Now Canada ULC Supply,
Okay,
and the other one I'm not familiar with. Unfortunately, I don't have that one written down.
it's the dance studio.
I'll often assume that's the case. I apologize. I don't have the.
I'm just looking at the pictures. That's all.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I apologize. Yeah.
Okay. The difference between the front and the back seems to be relatively marginal for a difference between an office and a warehouse, doesn't it?
There's a again, I haven't inspected the property, so I can't speak to specifics, but there is, from what I understand, like, portion of its office, portion of its warehouse. We've made adjustments for that reasoning. So, but you're right. I don't dispute that. Yeah. So.
Okay. The cap is again modeled. Now, when you do a cap for this building and the model generates it, you've got these two premise IDs here. How does it? And one is an office and the other is warehouse. Does the model treat it all as warehouse with a different level of finish?
I'm gonna be honest with you, like I don't have the specifics of that. But you're right. I get what you're saying though, obviously, because you're right. If we're gonna use two different finishes, you're right, there would be difference in caps and such. So unfortunately I don't have the answer for that this time. So
okay, thanks. Those are my questions.
Okay, Gail, questions?
Just wondering what type of business is operated in this facility?
Well, it's Mr. Neufeld might be able to give a bit more information, but I know it is owned by MacDon, so I'll be honest, unfortunately, I'm not sure exactly what they do in the space. I'm sure Mr. Neufeld has a bit more.
Okay, I'll save my question. Thank you.
Michelle?
Those are all my questions.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, I have no questions, so proceed, Mr. Neufeld.
Thank you. I did send in some rebuttal information, and why it's a rebuttal is because I asked the question about what's going on in the neighborhood and the motivation behind the sale, and my pictures only I thought would be adequate, but they're not. So I sent in a picture of the building, the location, and I'll speak to it in my general verbal. So this is owned by MacDon. They purchased it. They had the building to the south, which is, I believe, 680 Moray. 680 Moray has no land whatsoever to it. I mean, when I say no land, it has land, but it's completely inadequate. In that particular building, they're doing assembly of mostly swathers, and this would be the chassis is built across the street at the big plant. Not the chassis, the body is built across the street at the big plant, and the chassis are brought in. They're made elsewhere, and then they stick them together in the property to the south, and then they store them on their lot to the south. So they're starved for land, and in the last 10 years, and I do work for them in a non-tax appeal situation on they've been purchasing land, trading land, and expanding. They've been buying up most of Murray Park for their business. So this is a clear assemblage sale. Now, their motivation on this one was interesting. The front was set up as office, the rear was set out as warehouse. Their motivation was to convert this all to office and use it as a data center. And they began that. My first meeting actually with MacDon was in this building. Since then, they've mothballed that, and this is sort of a mixed usage building. They've got they built 255 Saskatchewan for warehousing, which was super high ceiling, and that's taken away the need for warehousing. They're not manufacturing in here. It's they also own 11 Salto, which is small parts storage for when breakdowns occur. So this has been miscellaneous storage in the rear, and that's where it sits today. And it's I think now there's only 2 or 3 people working in there. it's oh, the people who do the advertising brochures work in here for MacDon. And we had looked at it on the basis of we're really close. We actually have a higher rent than the assessor does because we've been in there, and I think it would demand a higher rent. And the rear is unsuitable for any use. If you look at it by itself, it doesn't even have semi-trailer access from Morey. You have to come through the back lane, and the approaches are difficult. So it's just they have some utility in it, but we put it at the lower end of the scale. You'll notice that the 813 is exactly what 301 Cree was at, which is April 1st, 2021, which is virtually not next door, immediately next door. It's 3 or 4 buildings away. That would be what that office should generate for in the neighborhood. 21 Murray Park is close by as well, but 21 Murray Park, as the assessor is using, was actually built for a credit union and a financial planner, and then later on there's Stevenson Equipment rented the back to sell golf carts. That the golf cart rent is $4, the bank rent's $12. So that wasn't a really great comp. It bears no relationship. So we did look at the Cree sale. Cree rent as being the strongest, and we have a few other rents from 200 Cree as well, one of our clients. I think it's in this particular industrial neighborhood, which is dominated by MacDon, there are not a lot of real rents. Boeing's got 600,000 feet, MacDon's got over 1 million square feet, and that's the area, that's the neighborhood. Not much else action is happening independently. There's a post office at $7 down the road, which we did not put in. So I think our rents are pretty fair. As to the capitalization rate, the vacancy rate, again, we looked at industrial, and there is a category for Murray Park in Johnson report, which I have here. I don't like using it because the sample size is so small, and it's dominated, as I said, by 2 users. You're not getting an accurate indication of Murray Park. It's 426,000 square feet of investment space versus the city's average of 28 million. So it's just a poor sample size, and we'd rather not rely on those poor sample sizes. And I'm just so that's why we picked St. James. The Murray Park rate in and by itself would be 6% for the poor sample size. So it's certainly not misleading what we put at 7.1. Shortfall again calculated on economically driven, market driven by the usage, not by a blind factor of 385. Our NOI then at 59,000, we've capped at 7. And I think that the building might generate some interest. The city did spend some money on Morey for some upgrading. I would say that if there was a issue that I would revise in here and consider revising, and certainly not be the rent. I think we're bang on with that. It's you might see a more competitive cap rate from a small time user, perhaps in as low as 6.5. I'm not changing this, but I'm simply verbally saying that I'd like to be straightforward and honest. I'm not out to drive to get the best lowest number I can. I got to be reasonable here, and I think that there might be more interest in there on this property than 7, but I'll leave that to the board. I would, having been in I think every site here I've been in, and I don't do these workups, but a 6.5 puts it about 900,000, and we did settle it. Can't remember if this was settled at $1 million or was an offer in the prior year, but I think that would be my concept of a fair number. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, questions?
Just one quick question. So I think you kind of mentioned it, but maybe I didn't hear it, I guess. So like, because I know like we have it broken up in like office and warehouse space. So like, like I know the warehouse space would be a lower rent than office for sure. So, but is there, like you were saying, there's some issues with the warehouse space, or it's just not good space, or what was the issues, or?
Well, look at the way it's set up and the way that you're going to get your access and your contact with it. It's like set at the back of the building.
Yeah.
And so if you're coming in off Moray, you're say unlike look at the property north of it, how you've got a Murray Park and a back lane access, and then you can get your trucks to every point of the property, and then you look at this one and it's like this long narrow strip. So I think the configuration is poor. I would probably think that you could drive a better rent if you had a space to drive in from Moray. And what that would then give you the opportunity of doing is bringing your semi trailers in the front, going down the building, backing up to a loading dock, instead of trying to turn them around in the parking space. As I said, it looks to me like it was designed as an office, and someone said, "Well, we're going to leave the back like it is for now, and until we need it, and then we'll build it out." That's the feeling you get when you walk in there.
Okay, that's all the question I have. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Gail?
No, they've been asked and answered. Thank you.
All right, Michelle, questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, and I have no questions, so let's proceed on to,
Just a short, brief summary. And
okay,
just in fairness to the client, they have over 1.5 million square feet, somewhere around there. I stopped adding it up. And each of these buildings has got a specialized usage, as I was pointing out with the subject. The one to the south, for example, has a theater in it. But this is what happens in a campus of a large campus, is that buildings get specialized, and not like you can't take one little piece of it and put it on the market and have it a value. It has to be looked in context, and capital is required generally. Sorry, that's all sorry, that was it.
okay. Any summation, Matthew?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to 688 St. Joseph Street.
Can I have 2 minutes?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, welcome back. We will continue with 688 St. Joseph Street, so you can begin, Mr. Harling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 22-3265. The roll number is 0606093500. The address is 688 St. Joseph Street, and the owner is Ranch Asset Management Incorporated. 2023 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $1,096,000. So looking about on page 1, you see some prep description information. This is a 1 to 4 story building. The actual year built was built in 1924. The actual effective year built is 1960. I apologize, there should be some more years in there, it's not showing, but the effective year built is 1960. The wall heights are 9 feet. It is zoned M1 manufacturing light. The land area is 32,324 square feet. The plan area of 16,620 square feet, which gives us a land to plan area of 1.94. And we have an overall leasable area of 31,088 square feet. Turning to page 2 of my brief, you'll just see the requests for information have been received. We go further down page 2. There was a sale in 2021, however, this is post-reference, so I can't speak to it. And there is no subject leases in place that we have on file. Go on page 3 of my brief, you'll see some photos of the subject. Again, it's located on 688 St. Joseph Street. So if you're located in the St. Boniface area of the city, at the top, you'll see here where it's located. And at the bottom, you'll just see more of a zoomed close-up picture of the subject, where it's located on Dumoulin Street and St. Joseph and Notre Dame just north. So page 4 of everything, you'll see some photos of the subject. So this is the front of the building. So you can see where it's got the multiple stories. The bottom of page 4, this is just another view of the subject from an angle, just to kind of show the building itself. This is continued on page 5, so this is on St. Joseph, or just further south of the building, or east, I should say. And this is the bottom of page 5, just further back of the subject. And the last thing, page 6, this is just a rear from the other another angle of the subject, just to show the building in its entirety. And if we go to page 7, overhead view. So you'll see the subject, the overhead view of the subject. There are multiple tenants in this building, so that's why it shows multiple addresses. Bottom of page 7, just a further photo. Again, there's multiple buildings in here. It's just kind of an older building. Pieces have been added over the years. This continues on page 8, just again showing another view of the subject. And then lastly on page 9, again, this just shows further views of the subject, just to show the whole building in its entirety. So going to page 10 of my brief, this is the income workup. So then we classify this as a loft warehouse. You'll see there are 11 premises and various leasable areas and various rents. We're using an overall rent of $4.12 a square foot, which gives us a leasable area of 127,985. We're applying 12.5% for vacancy loss, which gives us an effective gross income of 111,987. We're applying 3% for non-rental expenses, as well as $3.85 a square foot of shortfall, which gives us a net operating income of 93,666. And we're applying an overall capitalization rate of 8.55%, which gives us an estimated value of $1,096,000. One thing I'm not going to actually go into my rent comps because looking at Mr. Newfield's brief, we have the same rent, so I don't think it's really necessary to really go through the rent. So I think I can just kind of
I would agree that
Yes.
let's concentrate on the differences.
So yeah, it's the only difference we really have is cap and I guess our expenses, but I'll just so I'm not gonna really go into the comparables because we have the same rent. So so just go to page 12. So again, we're using an 8.65% cap rate, or sorry, 8.55% cap rate. Again, this being an older building, it's located obviously in an area that's primarily residential, so that's an issue. Again, older loft warehouse building, multiple premises, so the cap rate would fall outside the typical norm, but again, just based on those factors, I believe the 8.55% cap rate would be supported. Page 13 is just a municipal assessment excerpt information. Page 14 through 16 is just the income expense mailer. This is a gross rent, so and again, as I said, rent's not an issue really. So so that yes, that was mailer, and that actually concludes my presentation. I ask the board to confirm the value, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Yes, so right now it's being called, I guess, a commercial rental property.
Yes, that's how we're
Okay, what was it before its most recent use? Wasn't this an industrial building?
I mean, it's always been we've classified as like a loft warehouse space. I don't know if what it was previously. I think we've had it like that for quite some time, unless you maybe not that I'm aware of. So, but
no, I'm just trying to remember what it was.
At one point in time, I believe it was a Keywell's Brewery site.
Oh wow!
I might be dating myself.
I did not know that. So.
All right. Yeah. No. And your valuation, was this all done by the model?
It is all model driven, correct?
I don't have any other questions.
Okay, Gail, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Michelle?
No questions, thank you.
I hope nobody draws an inference on me knowing it was a brewery site. Okay, Mr. Neufeld, you can begin.
I was actually thinking of the dairy on St. Joseph. Well, you were drinking beer, I was drinking milk. This company just became a client of ours, relatively new, so we don't have a great background on it. We looked up what the assessor had put on it and have no data whatsoever to agree nor disagree with it. About the only thing that we're bringing up is the cap rate on something like this. It's you know, these are little units, little commercial units. This isn't something that is going to be a wonderful investment property. I think a riskier cap is required, and no, we don't have any comps of it, and no, this would never be considered in the Collier's cap rate a model, because we don't track miscellaneous properties like this. I think that our only take on it would be, as we were saying on our page 2, is looking at, you know, the best comp of 6%, and looking at the downside, which is commercial operation in an industrial neighborhood, which is extremely strong with the you call it the NIMBY, not in my backyard. So a lot of resistance and political motivation as well to keep St. Boniface with its character. And that's a downside, and it's just a downside to value. I'm not saying it's bad. That's what it is. The rambling building that it is, and the way it was converted, the age, the year it was built, quality and condition. That's my presentation, and then I say I think we were restricting it to the cap discussion only. We think a slightly higher cap rate is in order.
All right, any questions, Mr. Hurling?
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, Gail, any questions?
I have no questions. Thanks for your presentation.
Great, Michelle, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
All right, let's go on to 45 Durand.
Okay.
Okay, then a moment so I can open up the files. All right, on Durand Street. You can begin, Mr. Harlan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 22-3273. The roll number is 0605-308-82500. The address is 45 Durand Road, and the owner is Gondola Pizza Manitoba Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $1,159,000. This is a one-story building. This is the actual and effective year built from 1990. Wall heights are 18 feet. It is zoned M2 manufacturing. Land area is 64,571 square feet with a plan area of 9,728. Which gives us a land to plan area of 6.64. And the leasable area is the same as the plan area of 9,728. If we go to page 2 of my brief, you'll just see the request for income information had been received. There are no recent sales. The last sale occurred in 2010, $710,000, and there are no subject property leases in place. So if we go to page 3 of my brief, you'll just see top subject map, and this is located on Durand Road. This would be located in the St. Boniface Industrial Park. You can see just close to Dougal Road, we just north of there. And bottom page 3, you'll just see the property where it's located on Durand Road. You go to page 4 of my brief, you'll see some street view photos of the subject. So this is the front of the building on Durand. And just going further a bit east of the property, you'll see here just more a bit of the property. Going to page 5 of my brief, you'll see the overhead view of the subject. So you just have the building here, and then you have the one Quonset building there, and just the property in its entirety. This continues on page 6, just showing another photo, an aerial photo, just from different angles, just from the front and the side. And then lastly, on page 7, you'll just see the rear of the photo of the subject property. Going to page 8, you'll see the income workup. Again, the lease layers is 9,728 square feet. We're applying a model rent of $7.15 a square foot, which gives us a potential rent of $69,555. We're applying 3% per vacancy loss, which gives us the effective gross income of $67,468. 3% for non-recoverable expenses, as well as $3.85 square foot of shortfall, which gives us an overall net operating income of $64,320. And then lastly, we're applying an overall cap rate of 5.55%, which gives us the estimated value of $1,159,000. Page 9 of my brief, you'll just see my rent comparables. So they range in lease start dates from February 2018 to July 2020. It ranged from 1 to 5 year lease terms. Leasable areas range from 6,800 square feet to 10,010. Wall heights range from 14 feet to 26 feet. Effective year bills range from 1956 to 2013. And the net rents range from $7 a square foot to $12.35 a square foot. And then just some of the locations. So I have one in Debates, Turin, which is close by, Aaron Street. So I tried to find comparables that would be similar in terms of age, size, and location, and use. Page 10 of my brief, again, we're using a model cap of 5.55%. So that does fall on the lower end of the 20th to 8th percentile for our cap rates. So it is a bit lower. But again, as I mentioned for previous properties with the lower cap rates, again, our cap rates can be based on factors such as age, size, location. It also has a bit higher land to plan ratio at 6.64. So that would be another benefit. I believe there would be some, potential for some surplus land, potentially if they needed to expand and such. So that would be another factor for the cap rate. Going to page 12, my brief. Oh, I apologize. Page 11, just municipal assessment excerpt information. Page 12 is just the income expense mailer. 12 and 13. You'll note that I'll note it's a owner-occupied property, so there is no actual rent in place. And this continues from page 14 to 15. That concludes my presentation. I'm open for questions. Thank you.
All right, questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Yes, your valuation, page 8, was all by the model?
Correct.
Okay, and you selected the comparable rents, page 9?
That is correct.
What's in 420 Turin?
420 Turin. Some kind of, I think it's a consulting firm.
Okay.
Tech Consulting, I believe, is in there.
And 301 Debates?
I think I have it here. We have Western Waste Management. This is better.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Would that be their office, or are they storing waste there?
I apologize. Unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure what they're storing there.
Okay.
I don't dispute this would be a superior to the subject, though. Yeah. So.
Oh, okay. That's what I was wondering. And the subject is a commissary, correct?
Yeah, it's like the food preparation, like for gondola pizza, I believe. So.
And are you familiar with the Manitoba health requirements for food preparation areas?
Not the specifics, but I know it would have to be, pretty, have to be like follow certain guidelines for cleanliness and all those kind of factors and such. So yeah.
Okay, and are any of your comparables falling into the category, to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Do you have any, and do you have any rents at all on commissaries or food preparation buildings?
No, unfortunately I don't believe any of my comps would be of that particular exact similar nature. No.
In regard to capitalization, then is there any method in your capitalization to, for example, look at these food preparation areas? Would they capitalize differently, do you think?
Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, I don't know the specifics of that. But you're right, there would be probably some differences based on the fact of, in that case, for example, I wouldn't dispute there might be some variations in the cap rate based on that. So
okay, thanks. Those are my questions.
All right, questions, Gail?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Michelle?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, I have a question just for confirmation. The assessment is based on the building itself and not the Quonset?
yeah, correct. Yeah, we're not including that Quonset. It's like a detached structure, so we're not including it in the income. It's just the building itself.
Okay,
So, yeah.
all right. Thank you very much. So you can proceed, Mr. Neufeld.
Okay, thanks. I am eating a cold gondola pizza right now.
Oh, our sympathies.
I love it.
I like cold pizza.
So it was designed and built for Gondola's commissary, and I've known the family for I guess almost 40 years, and as Gondola moved along, they started in the commissary world because they controlled their dough their meats and all their ingredients, and the franchisee then would have to get it from here. Now that's changed over time. The old style commissary is really not happening. You know, my clients over the years have been people like Salisbury House with their commissary and Bannister. It's not keeping pace with the times, and so the use of it is been downgraded somewhat. But a commissary, because it prepares food, has to comply with the Manitoba health requirements. You need impermeable walls. You need the proper air handling equipment. And so you need ceramic floors, for example, because you can't have a porous cement floor. You need to have those surfaces covered. The downside is when you build that out for one particular use and then you go back to the market and say you want to put it up for sale or rent, no one's paying for that because there's no demand for a commissary anywhere in the market. So we have an obsolescence factor. We do have one commissary or no food preparation rent in our table, and that's located very close by. And this is page 3, 2049 Dugald. This is the Northwest Company's warehouse for food distribution for First Nations. And so about 60-70% of the building is at for food handling levels because they're storing fresh food. It's the same standard. And then there's other parts of that particular building in Dugald that for dry storage which don't have to comply with those regulations, but the shipping does. So that rent is $3.95 a foot. The building, of course, that building is older, but it has the same sort of land configuration. The high land ratio is the subject. So we put a lot of weight on that. And when we ended up calculating the rent, we looked at our table and did a little mathematical calculation at the bottom, page 3, and did an intercept in there as to where it would end up, and it came at 527. So that's a statistical number. We did change that to $6 to bump it up higher. You know, there are a few other rents in the area of St. Boniface Industrial. I don't. There's a Dawson Road, 399 Dawson Road at 490, and just trying to. There's a couple of others we had noted here. Well, the ones in Pandora are relatively close by. Probably the reason you want to stay in the neighborhood is because if you have a building like this, it will be driven by neighborhood factors. It's not catering to outside the city of Winnipeg, obviously. So I think you have to put a lot of weight on the local numbers. So we had it at $6, and I think that's a good number as far as the cap rate's concerned. There's nothing special about this really. The negatives I've already mentioned is you're going to bring it to the market. There's no commissary users. It is on the small side, and the quality and condition were the issues where you probably find a user finding that the obsolescence of the food handling was not conducive to them, and they may be able to work around it by spending nothing, or they may have to spend a few $100,000 on modifications. But I think it's a bit of a downward on the market. If you look at our Collier's cap rate, and this building probably fits into it, and on our page 10 under industrial, be a class B, and you see our range there is 6 to 6.75. I have said so many times in the past that we do calculate our cap rates differently, in that we do them based on the purchaser's cap, not the vendor's cap. So they are artificially low, and if and when I take it over, I'll be making sure that we change that. So I think the 7% fits in nicely there. St. Boniface is not the greatest industrial area. The action is happening in Rosser right now and in Arm McDonald, not in the city of Winnipeg. So I think the number is fair. That's my presentation.
Any questions, Mr. Harley?
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, Gail, questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
All right, Michelle?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, let's then go on to 1501 Dugald. All right. Open file. Okay, Mr. Harlan on 1501 Dugald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The file number is 22-910. The roll number is 0605023600. The address is 1501 Dugald Road, and the owner is number company 4089074 Manitoba Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on a reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $1,082,000. There are, this is a one-story, there's two buildings on the premise. They're both one-story buildings. The actual year builds range from 1910 to 2020, with the effective year builds, or actually effective year built ranging from 1970 to 2020, with an overall effective year built of 1990. The wall heights range from 10 to 16 feet. The zoning is M1 manufacturing light. The land area is 56,461 square feet, with a plan area of 8,496 square feet. With an overall, which gives us a land plan area of 6.65, and we're using a leasable area of 8,496. Just one thing I just like to mention first before I go further is like the actual year builds. Like I was curious because I saw this in 1910. I was like, wow, where is this? So if you look at the basement area, there's 960 square feet of basement area. So in our system, that's what the space is at 1910. I'm not sure why we have why that only one area is at 1910. So I don't believe the buildings there are that old, but as you can see, the effective year builds range from 1970 to 2020. So again, it was using an effective year built of 1990, and that 1910 is for the 960 square feet of basement area, which I'll have to maybe do some more looking into why that is. So, but I just wanted to kind of clear that up if there was any questions on that going forward. Page 2 of my brief, the request for information have been received. The most recent sale was back in 2013 for $475, and there are no subject property leases in place. Go to page 3 of my brief. You'll see at the top there, this is located on Dugald Road, very close to the previous property we spoke to. And then at the bottom of page 3, you'll just see the subject where it's located on Dugald. Go to page 4 of my brief. You'll just see some photos of the subject. There's actually, as I mentioned, there's two buildings. This is the building we're seeing at the front page here. This is the office or space for, like I said, a car dealership, essentially. So this is where their office space is. And at the bottom of page 4, you can see in the further back, there's the kind of the warehouse space, which I'll be speaking to when we go further in. So page 5, this just gives you a bit more description of the properties. So again, as I said, the front is where the office space is, and the back is where the warehouse space. We're not assessing that little quant set in the back, just the warehouse you can see there. You go to page 6. Again, you'll see some pictures of the subject from the side, and then at the bottom of page 6, you'll see the rear of the subject. Excuse me. Now we have two income streams for this property, so I'll go into each one. But the first one we have is the storage warehouse income stream. So we have two premises on this, totaling 6,400 square feet of leasable area. We're using a rent of $747 on the main 4,000 square feet and $8.42 a square foot on 2,400 square feet, which gives us an overall rent $7.81 a square foot. One thing I'll just note is that 2,400 square feet is the new addition area, which I will speak to further in my presentation. There's an addition added, so I'll speak to that as I go along. But again, we're using an overall rent of $781. This gives a potential rent of $50,088. We're allowing 3% for vacancy, which gives us an effective gross income of $48,585. 3% of your expenses, and $3.85 a square foot again for the shortfall, which gives us a net operating income of $46,388. And we're applying a overall cap of 5.25%, which gives an estimated market value of estimated value of $884,000. Now, as I said, there's two income streams on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak to the comps for this particular stream, and I'll go to the additional income stream. So if you just turn to page 9, these are comparables with storage warehouse space. They range from October 2019 to October 2020. These terms range from 2 to 5 years. Leasable areas range from 2,000 to 5,170 square feet. Wall heights range from 12 to 16 feet. Effective rear builds range from 1966 to 1983. And net rents range from $7.50 to $12.50. So that is the storage warehouse. Now, if you go back actually to page 8, this is the office income stream we're applying. This would be for the building in the front. So again, this building is 2,096 square feet. We're applying a model rent of $8.92 a square foot, which gives us a potential rent of $18,696. We're allowing 11% per vacancy, which gives us an effective gross income of $16,639. We're allowing 3% for non-referral expenses and $12 a square foot for shortfall, which gives us a net operating income of $13,373. And we're applying an overall capitalization rate for this at 6.75%, which gives us an estimated value for the rest of the office space at $198,000. And if we turn to page 10, this is just my rent comps for the office space. So these range from November 2017 to February 2020, 3 to 5 year lease terms. Leasable areas range from 2,532 square feet to 32 to 35. Wall heights range from 11 feet to 12 feet. Effective rear builds range from 1979 to 1991. And the net rents range from $9.95 to $14.50 a square foot. So now if you just turn to page 11, this just gives a breakdown of each of the income streams. So you can just see the breakdown of each of them, and then you can see how we get the 1,082,000. So just to get the breakdown of each of those added together gives you the total estimated value. Now, if we go to page 12 of my brief, so just again, there's two separate cap rates. So again, we're using 5.25 for the storage warehouse. So again, this is a lower cap rate. Again, following what's outside the 28th percentile. Again, as I mentioned, other properties, the reason for this cap rate may be based on the age, size of the building. Again, it being there was a recent addition added to it, so it's got a higher, newer 50-year built. So those would be the reasons for the lower cap on the warehouse portion, if you will. And then just the 6.75% cap at the office space. Just looking at the office space, it falls within our 28th percentile for office space where industrial. And I also believe it's further supported by the outside sources as well. So again, those are the two cap rates for the two income streams. Page 13 of my brief is just the municipal assessment act user information. And page 14 and 15 is just the income expense mailer. This is fully owner occupied property, so there's no income in place. And this continues on page 16 to 17, just the blank mailer. If we go to page 18, my brief, just as I mentioned, there was an addition added in 2020, so I just throw the permit in there just to kind of show that this was when it was added back in 2019. The permit was taken out, but the building was added in 2020. If you look at the bottom of page 18, you can just see where the existing building was in the back, and then the addition that was added. Page 19 is just some further photos of the addition and the building itself. And then just on page 20, I've just shown a picture of what the building used to look like before the addition. And bottom of page 21, again, it's just a further photo just to show what the building was previously. And if you want to go back to page 5, you can just see the newer addition on the building. That concludes my presentation. I ask the board to confirm the value, and I am open for questions. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Sorry. Yes. I lost my, hang on 1 second, I lost my place here. Yeah, so you were saying 1910 is just a mistake of some sort? It's
like there's like it's a basement area. If you look on page 1, you'll see the 960 square feet of basement area. That was what when I was looking at our building IDs on our income streams. Yeah, okay. So yeah,
so it's 1970. That's okay.
Basically, yeah.
And these plans that are shown page 19, sorry, I can't read the date on these. rather small.
Page 19 or which one? Sorry.
I guess it's page 18.
Yeah, I apologize. The permit, I tried to zoom in, but I couldn't get it zoomed
Oh,
in.
I see, October 8th, 2019 is permit.
Yes,
Okay, and so your dimensions are based on that 6,400 for the shed and 2,096 for the old restaurant then.
correct.
Okay. Now and it being owner occupied, you do not have a rent.
There's no rent, correct.
Okay, and when this, oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong building here. I'm fine. Did you look at the sale in of 2013?
I didn't have a mailer, unfortunately, that I could find. I did notice that was the sale though. Yeah, so I mean, from what I understand, it was a good sale. So
Okay. And what's it in use for now, to your knowledge?
well, from my knowledge, the office space there at the front is used as a car dealership, and then I believe the back is used for storing vehicles and such. That I can again, I'm not entirely sure because I haven't inspected it, but
What was the former usage of the front portion? Do you know?
yes, it was a restaurant.
And do you know anything about the condition at time of sale or after time of sale?
Unfortunately, no, I do not know.
Did you review the property file that the assessment department had on the past appeal?
I did not look at the old. I didn't have time, unfortunately, to really go into depth. Unfortunately, so
You didn't note that there was a report of mold through the building?
I was not aware of that. No.
Okay. Now, does your model have the ability to deal with mold issues and things like that?
Things like that we might have to make, adjustments, on the, we might have to look further into it, make further adjustments. So, I can't speak to the specific of the model if that is the case. Like, I mean, you're right. This would be unique, kind of a unique situation. I guess we might have to look at something we might have to adjust maybe. So.
The construction of the shed in the back, do you have do you agree that this is what we would call a pole frame construction?
Yeah, it's like more of like a kind of like a metal framed shed, really. I won't dispute that. Yeah. So
Okay. And do you know what it's in use for today?
I do not know the specific use of it. No.
And the capitalization rate, do you have many former restaurants and sheds in your capitalization rate database or any whatsoever?
Again, we look at a lot of sales. So I unfortunately I can't speak to every single sale that's included in there. So yeah, there might be a few maybe, but I can't speak to that for sure. So
and you have two revenue streams here. One is capped at 5.25, the other at 6.75. That's not the way it would transact in the market, would it?
I can't speak to that specifically, but I guess obviously, I mean, you obviously would have a different, I'm sure have a different way of how you would break it down. So, but
Yeah, well, and looking at your table on page 12, and I'm just looking again, the outside opinions of capitalization rates. This obviously on a blended value comes in the very low end in the 20th percentile. How would this be treated in the market by the three participants? Low, high? Do you know?
I mean, like I said, we're using a 6.75 for the office space, so I think it falls within the ranges. So I mean,
I
yes,
meant the
sorry.
overall, and you've got it at 5.52 overall, and for example, 5.25 on the warehouse. That is some difference from your market experts, isn't it?
There are some differences. As I stated, like I mean, I understand the warehouse portion. Like I said, there was that addition added, so that it adjusted the effective age a bit. So you're right. So it's factors of that nature of the age. Again, and we have a land to plan ratio of 6.65, so that's another factor I believe would affect the cap. So yeah, there's a variation of reasonings I believe for the cap rate why we chosen that, so or applied that I should say.
And just one more question. I just want to see. So you're calling the old restaurant an office rather than a restaurant or something else.
Yeah, we're classifying it as an office, correct? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
All right, questions, Gail?
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, questions, Michelle?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to ask, on the leasable areas, and there's a difference between the parties on that, particularly with regard
We'll
to
concede
the,
on that point, so I didn't have the accurate measurements.
oh, okay. All right, so then I won't ask the question, then you can proceed, Mr. Neufeld.
Yes, thank you. We knew about the addition. I just never had the accurate dimensions. I got them a bit informally from the client. Um, and again, this is a client who I do a great deal of work for. I didn't do an evaluation on this property. I was involved in the transaction, and there were some hitches in the sale, which was rather interesting. I had one client who was leasing the back and did not want to leave, and another client who went to purchase the property with a reluctant client. It is Vickers Automotive Group's building. They are located immediately north of this on Regent Avenue. They purchased it for the concept of an overflow used car sales, as well as a detailing shop in the back, and car storage. Their purchase motivation, as I said, the original number ended up was about 400,000, but turns out the guy in the back thought he had a longer lease, and then rather than fight it out, they paid it money to kick him out. Essentially. So, and the bad side of it, and I just sent this in as rebuttal. I did prepare the foundation because I have submitted this in the past. The restaurant operation that was in the front had been vacant at time of sale for almost 2 years, and the presence of mold was a major problem in terms of they ended up having to do a strip down to the studs renovation on it, and I sent in some pictures of it. It was obvious. I was in the building at the time advising them on it, and I witnessed this myself. I think that in the long run, you still have to, even though it was cleaned out, you still have to have some concern in your mind about for value down the road. You've had it, you've seen it, you've observed it. What it really means in this day and age is you go to finance it, you go to sell it, you're going to have to go all the way to a phase 2, and you're going to have some reluctance in the marketplace to get involved with it, unless you demolish it for the land. It is a downward impact on value. We had the person who prepared this report did not know about it nor take it into account, but and let me just see. No, they didn't know about it. It does exist. So the building in the front is a wood frame restaurant, and that's why it had mold, because you don't do wood frame restaurants. You do masonry to prevent the spread of issues like mold. You do not use an organic material to build a restaurant. Well, I was talking earlier about the commissary. That's one of the things to bear in mind. So, I mean, at the time, they considered complete demolition and possibly putting up a trailer rather than this. But they ended up doing a renovation. The back is what they call pull frame construction, and it's different than it's a very basic frame, not meant for bearing weight. It's a shed, and it was purchased for detailing. So that's all you need is a shed. It has heat, of course, and it has some insulation, but it's not a great warehouse building. It wouldn't be where you would store your goods. And I don't want to waste your time, but I always get invited to go down there whenever they bring in some exotic car. And I was promised to see a Ferrari the last time, but instead I saw a split screen 1963 Chevy, which really doesn't do anything for me. Digressing. But Vicker is now doing more classic cars because they can't get inventory on some of their models, and they're backfilling their space with these. So it's a detail shop. and then storage. As a result, like I said, the person who did this was not aware of it. We put a $9 rent on the old office because that's really basic office in the Dugald area. And we got a couple of rents. We have a whole bunch of rents of industrial, and then we got auto-related rents. I suppose one of the rents we'd probably put lean on a bit more would be on our page 4, 231 Oak Point, and that's a former Harley Davidson dealership at $7 a foot. 700 Maury, an old body shop at $6 a foot, and 2554 Portage, which was another auto dealer that had problems, $7.56 a foot. And after it was repaired, the shed part in the back is just a very, very simple working space. It would respond to the lower end of the scale, and we have a whole bunch of rents on page 5 and page 3. If I was just looking at them off the top of my head, I'm just trying to think of what would be a good comparison for a shed like this. You know what? We don't even track sheds. And so in my mind, it would be at the lower end of the range here for an inferior space. It's not quality space. And most realtors would not. We're not going to be dealing with this because you won't find a renter who's interested in space like this. Actually, the 600 Mission, I'm looking on page 5, has one building there that's probably the closest I can think of, and that's at 450. Having said that, we want to change the rentable space, match the assessors, because as much as I work with my clients, they don't always tell me everything. We change the space to 6,400 on that garage section, and that changes our net income upwards to $50,864. In this particular case, the vacancy, and this is sort of a split between Transcona and St. Boniface, has been quite good. So it's driving our vacancy downwards. It is a smaller sample area, but they've managed to. It's a lot of end users as well. Not a great investment. So we're at 3.85%. Shortfall again impacted by the actual taxes load on it. And in this case, small building, big lot means the rate per square foot's higher. So our NOI now changed to 43,632. The capitalization rate, I'm not going to change it from 7.5%. As I said, I would typically have a higher rate because of the mold issue, but I think it's fair to say anytime you go before a hearing, if you want a lower number, the onus is on you to prove it in advance. If you want a higher number to get closer to the other side, that's the way we do business, right? And so that's why I won't change that. We should be looking at a higher cap, but I'm going to leave it as is, and essentially former restaurant, shed, mold at 7.5%, coming up to $582,000 is the value, which fits rather nicely with the sale and last year's assessment. Thank you.
All right, questions, Mr. Harlan?
It's just one. So I know you're at the building in the front was a former restaurant. Obviously, I know you mentioned the mold issues and such. So have they renovate? Has that been remediated and such? Then I'm assuming, has it been
Yeah, that's exactly. It was cleaned up, but the issue with mold is there's the 3 stages. It's discovery, it's cleanup costs, and then after it's done, there's still we used to call it stigma, everybody, but we call it market resistance to detrimental conditions. Is how is the market going to react to a building that has had an environmental problem? And there's practical costs, which is testing will have to happen all the time. And there's the intangible cost is somebody's going to be buying it and they're going to be thinking in the back of their mind. And it's like buying an old grow up. There's always that concern. It's it's not as big a factor anymore because remediation has gotten better. But it's still going to give you a half a point to 3/4 of a point market resistance, in my opinion.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay, Gail, questions?
Just Rocky, when you've done your calculation, can you advise me what the end value of that front building is then? What you come to as an end value?
For just the front building?
Yeah,
Well, I guess it would be, like we're pretty, it would just be a fraction of the total. If the total is 582,000. It would be 37% of that. 215,850 would be $215,850 would be the fractional interest of the front building, and then the back would be 367,000.
okay. So the city's value currently on the front building there is 198,000.
Oh,
so they're lower.
Okay, well, then I'll just, I never broke it down that way. So, I think they're probably using a lower rent than we did.
Well, they're putting in a higher shortfall.
Oh, the vacancy's higher. Yes, I see it. Okay.
Yeah, and the vacancy is higher, so it seems that the value has been reflected, the reduced value, eh?
No,
Okay.
you're correct. I guess we don't have it. If I had read that, I wouldn't have bothered. We don't have an issue with the front. It's the rear. So our rear.
So the primary issue with the rear, then, if you can just
well, it's simple. It's the rent. It's a shed. It's not a warehouse. It's a shed, and a cap rate of 5.25% is just not. I mean. People aren't rushing out to the market and selling and buying sheds for cap rates like that. It's got a lower lifespan, and who's going to go in there? There's no office portion in there. It's the former use was a semi-trailer storage, and now it's auto detailing. So we're not talking about. We're talking about just protection from the elements. We're not talking about accommodation. Okay. I mean, I got it. It's not fit up for personal habitation.
Okay. Right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Okay, Michelle.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, I have no questions, so let's get on with our last property. Are we okay for this room, first of all?
We are, yes.
Okay.
The afternoon hearing has moved to a different room.
Okay. So we'll go on to our last property, 1505 Dugald, just up the street.
I think it's actually just next door.
Okay. And let me just open the property. Okay, you can proceed then.
Thanks, Chairman. The file number is 22-915. The roll number is 0605301100. The address is 1505 Dugald Road, and the owner is Number Company 408-9074 Manitoba Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $1,196,000. Going to page 1 of the bottom of my brief, you'll see there are 4 buildings on the premise in total. Number of stories, so 1 to 2 stories. The actual year builds range from 1984 to 2007, which is the same as the effective year builds, but we're using an overall effective year builds of 1984. Wall heights range from 10 to 14 feet. It is zone M1 manufacturing. Land area is 59,647 square feet with a planned area of 8,726. which gives us the land plan area of 6.84 and a leasable area of 10,013 square feet. If we go to page 2 of my brief, you'll see the request for information has been received. Last time this property sold was in 2017 for 1.25 million. And there are no subject leases in place that we have on file. So we go to page 3 of my brief. I don't think I have to go much into this. This is literally adjacent to the subject property or the property we just spoke to on Douglas Road. So page 4 of my brief, you'll see a picture of the subject. So here's the main building on here at the front here. This is more of an office space. Bigger automotive uses this as their space. Page 5 of my brief is just another photo of the subject from the side. I'm going to page 6 of my brief. You'll just see the piece of land in the subject property where it's situated piece of land. So the two property buildings we're assessing are the front building at the front here, and then the one behind it, just like a shed type of area building. Those are the two properties we're assessing, or the two buildings we're assessing on the roll, which I'll get to. Page 7, just another photo of the subject. This continues on page 8, just from different views of the subject property. And then lastly on page 9, just the rear of the subject property. So if we go to page 10 of my brief, this is the income workup. So as I mentioned, there's two premises. So the first one's 6,917 square feet. We're applying a model rent of $7.10 a square foot. And below that's the 3,096 square feet. This is at a rent of $5.47 a square foot. The 6,917 square foot is an office, is the office space in the front, as I mentioned. So that's why we have a higher rate for that. Whereas the 3,096 is the shed, if you will, behind the back, where we're using 547. So this gives us an overall potential rent of 66,046. We're applying 3% for vacancy, which gives us an effective gross income of 64,065. Their expenses are allowing 3% for non-referral expenses, as well as $3.85 for shortfall, which gives us a net operating income of 60,986. And lastly, we're applying an overall cap at 5.80%, which gives us a capitalized value of $1,051,483. And we're also adding an additional value of $145,000 in surplus land, which I'll speak to. So this gives us the overall total estimated value of $1,196,000. Go to page 11 of my brief. We'll see the my rent comparables. So they range from May 16, 2016 to October 2020. Lease terms range from 2 to 10 years. Leaseable areas range from 3,780 square feet to 7,007 square feet. Wall heights range from 10 to 16 feet. Effective year builds range from 1959 to 2005. And the net rents range from $6.09 a square foot to $9.95 a square foot. So if we go to page 12 of my brief, these are my land comparables for the surplus land that we're assessing. So the total area of surplus land we're assessing is roughly 24,762 square feet. And we're using a model land rate of $5.85 a square foot, which gives us the estimated value of $145 for the land. So I've shown 4 comparables, fairly close to the subject. Dismirons and Stapleton would be the closest. So they range from 18,223 square feet to roughly 24,863 square feet. All the same zoning. Sale dates slightly older sale for the first one in Dismirons at 2013. So they range from November 29th, 2013 to January 8th, 2019. And these sale price per square foot range from roughly $8.09 a square foot to $14.88 a square foot. So I will note these pieces of land would be more of like unencumbered in the sense that they're, there's nothing, they're not really considered surplus. So that's why they would have a higher land rate. So that's why I believe the land rate we supported surpluses would be supported. So those are my land sale comparables. Go to page 13 of my brief, just the capitalization rate. Again, we're using a 5.08% overall cap rate. Again, this is slightly lower inside of cap rates. It still falls within a 20th to 80th percentile. But again, based on the age, size, location, those would be some of the factors of why we applied that cap rate. Page 14 of my brief is just the municipal assessment accurate sort of information. Page 15 through 17, which is the income expense mailer. So this is partially partially occupied. So you can see the rent that they're gaining for the one space that they are leasing out. So it'd just be the back portion. I believe this is the space that they're leasing out, whereas the front portion is the owner occupied space. So then you can go to page 16 and you can just kind of see the breakdown, the indicating which space is owner occupied and which space is the leased out space. This continues on page 17. And then just lastly, page 18 through 19. I've just included the sales mailer that was included back in 2017, just to show that the sale was a good sale and sold initially for 1.25 million. That concludes my presentation. I am open for questions. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Yes. Was this valuation all done by the model, as indicated page 10?
Yes, that would be all model driven, correct?
And does the model decide to put on a land value?
No, that would be something we would look at for you typically for the surplus land or excess land would be the case, yeah.
So that's an override by you, by not you, but someone prepared this to add for excess land value?
Yeah, it would be like not so much an override, but something we would look at and we would add as a second. Yeah, we'd add as a secondary income in this case. Yeah.
And the sizes that you have is 10,000 and 13. Did you happen to note on page 15 what the owner had said?
In terms of like their
Total leasable area 93, 92.
Well, on the mailer, I guess they didn't really. I don't have the. I don't think they put it on there, did they? Hold on. Oh no, you're right. They did 93, 92. Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I know. I noticed there was a slight discrepancy in terms of that. Yes. So, I don't know. Like, I mean, I know, like as I say, there's the shed in the back and the front. So, there's clearly
maybe a shed or two got demolished.
Yeah, or something, right? You know. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what happened. I just And if you had looked it up, you would have noted that there were some demo permits on there.
Yes, I did notice that. You know,
Okay.
to my knowledge, I was, you know, as you can see, there's multiple sheds back there. You know, from my understanding, it was just the one shed that's behind the main building. That's what I was aware of. I thought so. I might have to clean this up going forward and adjusting that. So, but
now, were you I noticed that you put in the sale price. Are you putting any weight on that, considering the questionnaire?
in terms of which portion are we talking against? Or
Well, you've got a sale listed on page.
oh yes, I see what you're saying. I know what you're speaking to, the part 6, the vendor lease back, I guess you would do.
Yes, that was one of the issues. Yes, and I'm
Yes.
just wondering if that gives some concern about reliability.
Yeah, I won't dispute. You're right. You know, that would maybe that could be potentially some influence on the sale price. Yes, I won't dispute that. Yes, so.
Right, and also on line 16, they were talking about doing some internal renovations, which may have accounted for the difference in space as well, correct?
Yeah, that could have some bearing on it as well. Yes.
Okay. And I'm just wondering if you noted the conditions of the lease to Boxstall.
Like what do you mean by conditions? Oh, like well, what's in the conditions of the lease itself?
Yeah, like Boxstall's being listed as being a tenant, and there is income coming from it.
Yes.
You're aware of that in that rent they had the land portion at the back, you know, where all the garbage piles are. I mean, the scrap metal piles are.
I wasn't aware of the. Yeah, no, I guess I wasn't aware of that because I guess they don't mention here. I guess that I was aware of. No, because I was not aware of that.
Okay. So, but the rent included a lot of what you may refer to as excess land. I'm just wondering if you're aware of that.
I was not aware of that.
Okay. And in terms of the capitalization rate, again, it's the same question again. I look at this 5.8%, and essentially we have collection of sheds and an office and a junk collection. And how does that fit with the other market comparables by the other three brokerage companies who are rating this much higher, between 6.75 to 7.5? that I'm looking at.
Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna probably go back to the same argument I was making before. Yeah, like again, it's just based on many factors such as the age, size, location. Those would be the driving factors again for the cap. So you're right. I won't dispute that there's a bit of a difference in what it's being reported by the published rates. So yeah,
Okay.
that's all I'm gonna
Those,
say.
those are my questions. Thanks.
Okay, Gail, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Michelle?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, so, Mr. Harlan, then in light of the the demolished area, are you going to reduce your areas or?
I think like I'll be I'm gonna leave it as it is now. I understand there's a discrepancy, but I think I'm gonna have to look at a bit more on what's going on here because like I know Mr. Neufeld had mentioned that, so but I mean if the board decides to change it, that's all leave that up to the board, I guess. But I think at this time I'm just gonna leave it as it is. So
Okay, now in terms of the excess land, how did you determine what area was excess?
well, as I said, we're not really considering excess land, it's more surplus land. Excess land would be like, land you could potentially break off and sell off. So we're considering it surplus, but as I said, I didn't really add, I wasn't the assessor that add the surplus land, but roughly we look at the overall land to plan ratio, we would kind of make a calculation based on that. So and we would kind of, again,
Okay,
do this.
so can you tell us how many square feet it was then?
Oh yeah, we had 24,762 square feet of surplus land.
24,752?
62, sorry, 62.
762. Okay. All right, and that was just based on the calculation that normal would be 4 and this is 6 point something?
Correct, yes.
All right. All right. Thank you very much for that. You can proceed, Mr. Neufeld.
Yes, really, days like this, I'm going to make more and more changes. It's one of the flaws in our system is that the people who prepare this don't have any, sometimes don't have personal knowledge of the site. The site was Boxstall Construction's office and compound. And Vicar, who had the lot next door, purchased it again. It was an assemblage issue. There was a vendor lease back. They needed to park more cars on their site. They not just purchased these two, but they also purchased another site down the road at 21, I forgot the number in Dougal, just across from Transcona golf course, because the demand on them was great. And again, I think we're in agreement. The sale meant nothing. If you combine the purchase of this one with the one next door and all the other ones they purchased, there might be something of interest there to see how much they've actually purchased. I should say that they had 4 sites they bought. They bought also another 20 acres in South Transcona. That's just the way their world is going. I'm going to tell you 2 things I don't like about our report. I think the office is better than $7. We said in the other one $9, and I think that that's a fair number just based on all the evidence we've actually presented to you. And what that does is it takes our potential income upwards to $69,048. The rest of the issues remain the same as far as our vacancy and non-recoverables and the shortfall again being higher because this isn't an industrial site, it's a hybrid site. It's a mix of office and industrial, so one has to take that into account on the shortfall. It's not pure industrial. It's a misclassification by the assessment department, and it should be it has to be higher. Our NOI then changes to 58,676. And the second change is the land. If you read the information provided, you can see that Boxstall's paying approximately $40,000 for renting of the land and renting of their building space. It's not a net rent, it is a gross rent. what I think that the simplest thing I can do is, even though I disagree with the concept, I just add the assessor's excess land value in because we're I think I was doing the numbers while we were talking, and it seems to be the fairest way. So our NOI 58,676, not changing capitalization rate because this is just a very inferior industrial site. We don't even know what's back there, and any purchaser who's going to come up and look at it and is going to go through a phase 2 on this because it's a junkyard. It's not, you know, you're not going to put out a brochure and offer this for a sale at 5% cap and show the buyer a picture of this. That's just not what is going to happen. It's impacted by what it is, which is a junky looking site with an office and in an industrial part of town. And incidentally, the office is got some second floor space as well as the first floor space. This is where Vicar relocated their clerical and administration offices to make room in their dealerships for people who sold cars. And then they have the overflow in the front for parking along with the site next door. So the value after I do those corrections comes instead of, or we had 646, I've increased that to 782,000 for that portion, and I believe it'd be fair to add the excess land. I think the number is pretty close, of 145,000. That comes to 927,000 in total. So I'm gonna go through the numbers again. The potential rent is 69,048. The NOI 58,676. Capped at 7.5 is 782,000. Adding excess land of 145,000 comes to 791,000. That's my disjointed presentation.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Harlan?
I guess just one. I think you kind of already mentioned, but like the cap rate you applied 7.5. So like this is like a kind of a blended cap with the fact that you're talking about the space in the back and then the office space. I guess is kind of how you're calculating that out. I guess like, I mean, majority of the space, you know, is office, right? So like, I don't know. It's
well, yeah, but if you put an office in a junkyard, that doesn't drive the cap down. You're still dealing with the whole site, and having inspected the site and looking at its curb appeal, the person who's going to buy it is going to walk in and think about cleanup costs right away. They're not going to be an aggressive cap on this, and it's Dugald. What's the market for office on Dugald? It's low. Most of the office in Dugald is accessory office. People don't wake up in the morning and say, a new office tower, let's put it on Dugald. That's not where you build them. So it's accessory office, a low interest, low demand, and on a yard that's predominantly industrial. I think our calculation was done pretty good on that side of it.
okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a lot of questions. Then thank you.
Okay, Gail, questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Michelle?
Yeah, so just to confirm, the revised value, Rocky, is 927,000, correct? With
yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Thank you. That was the only question.
All right, and I have no questions, so we've heard all the items scheduled today, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your presentations.
Thanks.
Thank you.